All right, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from the Controller Scopes. Welcome back to another edition of Captain Nabs live on the VATSIM network here. I'm just getting myself all organized, so I'm not going to be very chatty for the next couple minutes here while I just get everything organized up and running here in the Vancouver FIR today. We got a bunch of guys departing Vancouver, hopefully a couple of inbounds here. It should hopefully be a pretty interesting day, so let's just get this underway here. And of course, go figure. The second you started is when the sneezes come. All right. And I'm looking at this here on my ILS. I don't think I've updated it since. Uh, I don't think I've updated it since. Nope, 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 nope. Actually, no, that's wrong. Ugh. I'm thinking backwards here. Give me a second here. I'm just getting the ATIS up and running, and I am thinking backwards, which is not great. So, I'm thinking backwards here in Vancouver. Yeah, okay, that's better. Okay, so let's just have a quick check here. VMC, no, it's not really VMC. So we'll do IMC for 08. Okay, so we got Natus up and running. And let's just see if we got anybody taxing around on the ground. Nobody taxing around on the ground. Anybody turning final here? Nobody turning final. We got one guy doing Boundary Bay Tower, so that's why it's kind of interesting. So, yeah, this is not my first plan actually here. This is slightly off of my first plan. My first plan was to do Toronto Center because it's a busy center, and I figure I can get you guys a lot of activity in the uh, on a Saturday afternoon. However, literally minutes before I was getting ready to get online here myself, somebody else logged on. And I'm not that kind of guy who's going to say, "Oh, woe is me," and try and convince somebody else to come online. But yeah, just annoying more than anything. And maybe it's just me. Maybe yeah, that mic looks like it's overmodulated quite a bit as I'm talking here. So I'm just going to turn it down a bit. Hopefully, it's not too quiet that you guys can't hear me, but that looks a little better. And actually, the one thing I'm going to do as well is just slide this on as well. That hopefully makes it a little bit less breathy, a little bit less of the constant gasping. And yeah, here we go. So we are online, and I guess it helps to connect the audio. I thought the audio was connected, but it was not. Too much time looking at the ATIS. Yeah, so much stuff to kind of, when you first log in, you got to get yourself up to speed quickly here, and especially if you're not taking over for anybody else, then it very quickly, there's a lot of stuff you kind of there's a lot of stuff you kind of need to kind of look at all at once to try and get yourself up to speed. You got to look at the aircraft, look at the weather, get an ATIS online, look at the NOTAMs, uh, so much stuff kind of all at once. So Air Canada 236, Vancouver, how do you read? Okay, I see him transmitting. Why do I not hear anything? Oh, for crying out loud. All right, hold on. That should be working, but it's not. And the trouble is that anytime there's an audio settings problem, you have to disconnect. Check, check, hello. Check, check. No, that does not seem to be working. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect that, reconnect that. Ah, never fails. You're sitting here, you're trying to stream, you're trying to make things interesting for other people, and instead, nothing seems to want to work here. So, Okay, so I've got the microphone set up correctly. I've got the output device set up correctly. I should be able to hear it. So I don't know why when it was showing me somebody had called me, I couldn't hear them. Air Canada 236 Vancouver, give me another radio check, please. Nope, not hearing anything. Why am I not hearing anything? And still not hearing anything. Stand by. I don't understand. Oh, for a second I heard something. Air Canada 236, give me one more audio check.
Yeah, 236, ready 505. How do you read me?
All right, thank you. Now I've got you 5x5. I don't know what was going on there, but it didn't want to broadcast. All right, Air Canada 236. Good afternoon. Squawk code 0772.
0772, coming down Cat 236.
Flightcraft 668, hello. What do you file 260 route to Kelowna?
All right, Flightcraft 668, Vancouver, hello. Squawk code 0773.
0773 for 668.
Vancouver Centre, hello. Flightcraft 547 en route to Kelowna for level 240.
And Flightcraft 547, Vancouver, hello. Squawk code 0774.
0774, 547.
Appears to be going in order, which it's not supposed to do. It's supposed to do random. Yeah, assign random squawk in that gap. But anyways. All right, Flightcraft 688, identified flight level 260. Welcome aboard. I'll have Kelowna information for you shortly.
Roger.
Air Canada 236, thank you. You're identified climbing through 270. Continue climb, flight level 350.
That is correct. Climbing flight level 350, Cat 236.
And Flightcraft 547, Vancouver, identified flight level 240. And I'll have some information for Kelowna here for you momentarily.
Roger, thanks.
All right, so let's get information alpha. It's usually 1-6 more often than not, but it's kind of just me kind of guessing one way or the other. Winds are variable at 4. Let's see. Kelowna 170 at 2. Yeah, okay. All right. So we'll go with that. And it's VMC, but all right. And Flightcraft 668 and the Flightcraft 547 Vancouver. Information Alpha is now going up in Kelowna. It's going to be runway 16 for arrival. Just had a look at the METAR here, and there are thunderstorms in the vicinity of the airport right now. The winds are very light out of the south. First of all, Flightcraft 668, when able, just advise your planned approach for Kelowna.
And Flightcraft 668, we can do the ILS 16s for today.
Flightcraft 668, Roger. You want to do the ILS Zulu 16?
Sure, why not for 668?
All right, I like that helpful attitude. Flightcraft 668, you can plan the ILS Zulu runway 16 when ready to send 14,000. And Kelowna altimeter, oh, lost it here. It's 2982.
Roger, expect the ILS Zulu for runway 16 today, and got altimeter, and thanks for Flightcraft 668.
Flightcraft 547 Vancouver. It's going to be runway 16 for arrival in Kelowna. Information is Alpha. And which approach are you planning into Kelowna?
Yeah, if we could do the CCAP 416 ILS Zulu 16, that would be awesome for Flightcraft 547.
All right, Flightcraft 547, plan the ILS Zulu runway 16.
Roger, we'll plan for that. Flightcraft 546, thanks.
Okay, kind of got it up and running here, sort of. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes to get these things up and running here. All right, so I got an ATIS. Next was the NOTAM, so let's just have a look at Kelowna. Land procedures not recommended. 1634, extend center line. RNAP, RNP, runway surface conditions. Right now, dry in Kelowna. RNAP whiskey. Authorized RNAP X-ray 34. Okay, so there's a couple things not authorized. Let's have a look at Vancouver too while I'm at it. Nothing crazy in Vancouver. Do construction. ILS Cat 238 right, not authorized. Just trying to make sure there's nothing that's going to impact. No, I don't see anything too crazy here in Vancouver. Some construction. Hotel 2, Lima 2, Holding Bay. Lima 4, and Lima Holding Bay closed. All right, let's pull out my Vancouver charts. let's just have a look here. So, just so I know what I'm doing here when they start calling. Hotel 2, Hotel 2, Lima 2, Lima 4, and this is for April until, wow, Lima 4 and Lima Hold Bay closed. Lima 2, Lima 4, and Lima Hold Bay closed. City of taxiway Lima 2, Lima 4, and taxiway Lima. Oh, okay, so reduced due to construction, 8 right. Taxiway Lima west of hotel closed. Victor, south of hotel closed. Huh. Oh, okay. You know what? I think it's just easier to make 8 left the operational. And 8 right, 2-6 left is closed until July. I see. Okay, well then that changes things. Okay, we're going to throw a new ATIS up there then. And this is why you got to, it takes a while just to kind of get all this information up there. All right, so 0, 8 left. So we're removing 0, 8 right altogether. We don't need simultaneous parallel operations.
And flight graph 668. Just have a question. Did we get cleared down to 9,000?
And flight craft 668 for now, descend 14,000.
14,000, sorry about that, 668.
Flight craft 547 Vancouver, when ready, descend 14,000.
14,000 when ready, flight craft 547.
All right, let's also get up some information here about, let's see here, Vancouver. Kelowna approach to 16 and ground for 16, or ground for Kelowna anyways. Okay, so there we go. So it's construction season in Canada. It's going nuts this year. All the airlines or all the airports are doing tons of construction. And one more I need here. This one. Flightcraft 668 descend 9,000.
9,000, 668.
All right, so everybody's on 8 left. Arrivals and departures on 8 left. 8 right is closed. Okay, so now we've kind of got that sorted out. It takes us just a little while to kind of get everybody up and running here. So let's just pull up a few more bits of information here. Yeah, a little disappointed that I didn't get to Toronto because Toronto's always a perpetually busy place. But I think Vancouver on a Saturday, if we're on there providing ATC for a couple of hours, it could probably be a pretty hectically busy place. So trying to sort of make sure I got everything here. That should be there. Perfect. Okay. Nope, too far. Okay, we got that going. We got this going. We got everything going here. Except we got these 2 guys that are flying inbound to Vancouver that are not talking to me here. Air Canada 201 and somebody else of unknown origin. All right, but I sort of started to get the handle of what's going on here. I keep on pinging these guys because they are obviously around the flight deck because they're doing something. Flightcraft 547 descend 9,000. Kelowna altimeter. Had it here. I've lost it. Stand by.
Roger, 9,000 and we'll stand by for the altimeter, flight craft 547.
And Kelowna altimeter is 2982.
Roger, thanks, flight craft 547.
Okay. I don't know why these guys aren't calling. You got to start calling people. All right, but we should hopefully get a couple of, we got one departure there. This guy here is destination Oakland, departing Bellingham. Yeah, these guys never. All right, anywho, I think we kind of got everything organized here. I could throw up one more ATIS. My general tendency is to want to do Victoria for another ATIS. So let's have a quick look at what's going on in Victoria notam wise before I even bother trying to look at the ATIS here. Let's see here. Victoria, landing 30 up, not authorized. ILS 9, unserviceable. ILS glide path 27, unserviceable. 0927 closed due to construction. Noise operating restrictions lifted for runway 1432. Oh, and this is from May 23rd until August 15th. 0927 closed. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Okay, so 14, I guess 1432 it is for Victoria. That's unusual. Highly, highly unusual. Let's see what the winds are favoring here. Forty at 13. Well, I guess it's runway 14 then. Let's create a new profile just for this. Presets. I'm just going to copy this one here. I don't even know what approaches you get to Victoria. Let's check here. CYYJ onto 14. You don't get any approaches. Okay, interesting. Wow, this is going to make for an interesting summer.
And flight craft 668 Vancouver Centre, I'd like to report moderate to, moderate winds just near the Almon waypoint.
And is that moderate turbulence for Flightcraft 668?
That's correct, yeah, for 668.
All right, Flightcraft 668, thank you, and let me know when it stops there for you.
Roger, let you know.
And Flightcraft 547, you copy the company remarks there?
Yeah, we got the remarks here from the company aircraft. Thanks, like our 547.
All right, somebody's calling me on 33.7. Air Canada 201, hooray, it's what time? And Flightcraft 668, you're cleared Kelowna Airport, ILS Zulu, runway 16 DATBO transition.
Clear the ILS 1A 16 Zulu at Dabo transition for flight craft 668.
What's this? What's the intrail here? 22 miles, it's fine. There's lots of intrail spacing. All right, Air Canada 201 is text only here. All right, so Air Canada 201 is identified 260, information Charlie, altimeter 2995, 8 left, descend 12,000. I got one more guy back here who I've also got to find out about here. Oh, and I got this guy overflying, didn't even see this guy here. All these overflights that nobody even calls us anymore. The Bellingham departures, technically they're supposed to call us. I don't even worry about these guys anymore. It's not even worth talking about, but. All right, anywho, seem to have stuff sort of in hand here. Yeah, so hopefully some more of you guys will join me for this
And that's
afternoon
like
session here.
668. The wind has kind of stopped over the lake.
All right, Blakecraft 668, thank you very much for that. Keep an eye on the distance between them. It shouldn't be an issue because it's a controlled airport, so it shouldn't be an issue at all, but I just got to keep an eye on this. And who's this guy squawking? 5523. Nobody thinks Vancouver's ever going to be online, which is funny because like Vancouver is like the second most popular FIR in Canada in terms of certainly the time online. All right, 1432. Wow, that is crazy because there's no IFR approaches to 14 or 32. So for the summer, 0927 is all it is, and if it goes IMC in Victoria, Victoria shuts down because it looks like they're repaving the runway. It's closed until I think it's at August. But that's the way it is in a lot of airports. Like this summer is crazy for the amount of construction that's going on. There's constant some construction everywhere this summer. Flightcraft 547, Vancouver. You're cleared Kelowna Airport, ILS Zulu runway 16, Datbo transition. And just stay on the star until you get to Datbo, please. You're about 20 miles in trail of the company traffic. Spacing should be fine.
All right, Roger. We're clear of the ILS Zulu 16 Apple transition into Kelowna, and yeah, we'll make sure that for the company traffic, like our 547.
Thank you. Oh, and then that guy decided to disconnect rather than talk to me. As is par for the course. Why do I have the 26 approaches up? Those should not be up. It should be the 08 approaches. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Haha, better. All right, AirCam 201s descending to 8,000 now. I tell you, it's not very interesting to do text only. Not very interesting to do text only with on a live stream, anyways. So be it.
Center, hello, United 2070 Heavy, with default 370.
United 2070 Heavy, Vancouver Centre. Good afternoon, Squawk Ident. Is it afternoon in Vancouver yet, or still morning? I think technically still morning in Vancouver, actually. Fun times. United 2070 Heavy, thank you very much. Identified flight level 370. Oh, he's inbound to Vancouver. Nice. It's almost always, the American flights are almost always overflying, so it's kind of almost surprising to see that. Okay, Air Canada 102 is on the ground there. I got another Southwest on the ground in Bellingham. All these airplanes on the ground in Bellingham, and they never bother to call. Because it is technically an American territory, but the Vancouver terminal covers it because it's right here. So this is Canadian, or this is American territory. This is the border. It actually goes like this. Something like this. Where's the border? No, the border's even further up than that, isn't it? Yeah, Whatcom, I'm pretty sure the border's right here, but just because of the its proximity to Vancouver,
Could United 2070 Heavy step away for 7 minutes?
yeah, United 2070 Heavy, no problem. Just let me know when you're back.
I'll report back to United 2070 Heavy.
All right, AFK, he said 7 minutes, so I'm just going to put 1938 anyways. Not going to hold him to it, but yeah. Okay, so he's definitely clear for the approach. Flight graph 668 Vancouver. The current wind's showing 030 at 2. Clear to land, runway 16.
Clear to land, runway 16, flight craft 660.
And flight craft 547 for spacing for the traffic ahead, speed 210 or less.
210 or less for spacing, flight car 547.
I'll start reducing him a little bit here, so it's not a shock if I have to pull it back even further. Start kind of getting him in that mode. All right, that can's going down to 8,000. Got one guy on the ground here, no flight plan yet, but hopefully something shortly. And we'll get some Vancouver hours today. I haven't done Vancouver actually in a while, so it's kind of actually a nice change. Where'd I put my personal device here too, just to make sure I got this ready. And they are also.
Could United 2070 actually step away for another like 10 or 12 minutes?
Yeah, United 2070, that's not a problem. Just let me know when you're back. Looks like your top and drop's not for about 30 minutes, so as long as you're back before that.
Roger, will do. United 2070 Heavy, thank you.
All right, so we'll call it 15 minutes. I'll give him 48, and then, yeah, that's fine. What was I going to check on my cell phone here? God, I've already forgot what I was going to look at. One little distraction. That's all it takes. Yeah. Anyways, the construction is certainly constant this summer. There's no doubt about that. Oh, that's what I was going to do. I was just going to make sure that I update my tracker here, which is. Yeah, and here comes some advertising. Thank you for that. I forget what day this was. This was like Wednesday, I think. And I've just updated my tracker because I'm always trying to keep track of what FIRs I've controlled recently and trying to make sure that I am controlling them all and at reasonable intervals so that I keep my currency in all of them. Still 11 miles in trails. Good. They're both 7.3s. That's fine. Where is he? There he is. Air Canada 201 down to 5,000. All right. As long as I turn him inbound at Cam, did I give him? I did give him the ILS, right? Runway 08 left. Constantly back and forth here. All right, Vancouver. And does he want the ILS or the RNAV? All right, get Air Canada 201 down to 3,000. And let's see here, Omrad is at 2,000. So if I can get him even 2,000, we'll see how tight he's turning. What's Airbus? Yeah. First flight craft should be touching down momentarily. And Hayden, UK, good morning or good afternoon for you. It's probably almost evening, isn't it? Where's my clock here? Yeah, I guess for you it's evening in the UK, but welcome to the stream. Not a terribly exciting day in Vancouver, but we just got on a few minutes ago, so we've already got a couple people logging in. Hopefully it'll get a little more exciting as things go here. Flightcraft 547 Vancouver, traffic's over the numbers, so your number 2 winds are 130 at 3, clear to land, runway 16.
Clear to land 16, Flightcraft 547, thanks.
Oh, he really got down in a hurry. Like it. Get him down to 2,000 for the intercept, then give him a nice tight ILS here. Air Canada 236 Vancouver, you're just about to leave my airspace to the east. Edmonton's not online. Switch to the en route frequency. Surveillance service terminates.
Unicom 1228, Air Canada 236, thanks, short. Bye-bye.
Take care. Flightcraft 668, welcome to Kelowna. Turn right on Delta, taxi Delta, Charlie to the apron.
Roger, Flightcraft 688, if we can, make a request to go to the apron to Kelowna Flightcraft. We are cargo aircraft.
Oh, my apologies, Flightcraft 668, in which case taxi Delta to apron 2.
Delta to apron 2 for Flightcraft 688. 668. Thanks for ATC and have a great day.
Take care. I hope that's not me that's causing that. Wow. All right, he's cleared for the approach. Clear for the approach. I keep forgetting there's a Boundary Bay Tower on. I see targets on here. I'm like, targets, but no. Tower's on. And too late. He's still doing 250 knots almost. Like, guy, buddy. you gotta bring the speed back. 250 knots on the base to final. That's you're not gonna. He's not gonna make it down. He's never gonna get the flaps out. Why is he doing 250 knots? Because probably the approach wasn't activated, and so he's still flying the managed speeds for cruise or for descent instead of the approach speeds. That would be my guess. That would be I would be surprised. He wouldn't be the first Airbus pilot who's done that. Now he's going to intercept the localizer right at Omrad. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't fly for the pilots. I can give them clearances to try and get them to where they need to go and get them there quickly and efficiently, but I can't do the flying for them. It's up to them to get the airplane slowed down in time. So more power to them. Hayden, UK, I hope you're having some fun today. Maybe you're off flying somewhere in the UK. I hope, yeah. I had one guy that commented on one of my YouTube videos. I think it was one of my VATSIM introductory tutorials. Sorry, last call for Vancouver Centre. Say again the call sign.
Oh, sorry about that. Foxtrot November Lima Bravo off Boundary Bay level 2000.
November Lima Bravo, Vancouver Centre. Hello, Squawk Cadet. And November Lima Bravo, you're identified at 2000, the Vancouver altimeter, 299.5. And are you heading over to Active Pass and then back to Boundary Bay? Is that the flight plan there?
Affirm.
Roger that. Da, da, da.
Bravo, sorry, I missed that. Was that direct pass?
And November Lima Bravo, affirmative, sorry. Proceed direct active pass.
Direct pass, thanks for the Bravo.
Just got two things going on here at once. So I'm trying to get this guy. If he was, text only just adds so much sluggishness to the whole process. So I can only deal with a couple of text only pilots at a time. Flightcraft 547, welcome to Kelowna. Taxi, are you going to company ramp as well, I assume?
Yeah, if we could get apron 2, that would be awesome.
Kelowna, sorry, Flightcraft 547, taxi Delta to apron 2.
Delta 8 apron 2, Flightcraft 547. Thanks for the awesome ATC today. You have a good day.
Good day.
Vancouver Centre, Diamond Mike Oscar Delta out of Boundary Bay 2000.
Mike Oscar Delta, Vancouver, Squawk Cadet.
I
Didn't see that. I thought LLB was going to be VFR. November Lima Bravo, Vancouver, climb 3000.
3000,
Mike Oscar Delta identified at 2000. And Mike Oscar Delta, vectors for traffic, turn left 30 degrees, and I'll get you direct to Victoria here momentarily.
Left 30 degrees, Mike Oscar Delta.
All right, so got him off the turn right, say parking. So just time to get this kind of interesting here. Mike Oscar Delta, thank you. Turn right heading 110. Vectors to Victoria, climb 3000.
3000, right 110, Mike Oscar Delta.
All right, and Air Canada 201. Just waiting for him to tell me what gate he wants to park at. Flightcraft's taxiing up there. Maybe they'll turn around and go back out again. That'd be nice. United's going to be back with me shortly. 72, okay. Whoops. I had November Lima Bravo, disregard the text. Wasn't meant for you. Mike Oscar Delta, turn right direct to Victoria Airport.
Right to Victoria, Mike Oscar Delta.
All right. So we got these two guys past each other here. Air Canada's taxiing in. Flightcrafts are taxiing in. The United, I'm going to have to start him down in the next 10, 15 minutes or so here.
Sir, Foxtrot November Lima Bravo request.
November Lima Bravo, go ahead.
Request cancel IFR, please.
All right, November Lima Bravo, your IFR is canceled. And are you still going to continue to active pass and back to Boundary Bay?
Negative. IFR is canceled. We're heading back to Boundary Bay immediately.
All right, November Lima Bravo, roger that. In that case, you can contact the Boundary Bay Tower again on 118.1.
AP1, thanks for service.
Mike Oscar Delta, climb 4,000.
4,000, Mike Oscar Delta.
Thunder Bay Tower, Foxtrot November Lima Bravo, system 117, 2,900.
And November Lima Bravo still on the terminal, so flip the switch. Happens to the best of us. It does. You put in the frequency, you're all diligent, and then you forget to flip the switch. Good times. Okay, let's see here. Victoria wins. Let's just make sure that they're staying pretty consistent here. Victoria wins 110 at 11. Yep. It's favoring 1-4 for sure. It's a visual only. It blows my mind, but I mean, yeah, that's what happens sometimes when you get these airports where there's only one air carrier runway. If you have to take the air carrier runway down for any reason, like that, just completely blows up the entire operation. What's kind of really blowing my mind is the length of time this summer that is going to be going on. I believe it was till August. So this is like, you're talking like 3 months in the peak of tourist season, and there will be no airline, basically no airline service available. I mean, you can probably get the Dash 8s in on 1432, but that'll be it. There'll be no jet service to, no airline jets from, let's see here, May 23rd through to August 15th. So yeah, crazy to me. I mean, I guess it's not a terrible thing in Victoria. Like Victoria is fairly close. Like what is that? There's probably there's ferry services across, from Victoria to Vancouver. Nanaimo's also over here, so you can get a flight from Nanaimo, but you have to drive from Victoria all the way up there. That's got to be like an hour or two drive. I honestly don't know. I've never had to drive it, but kind of curious. But certainly it is. Yeah, it certainly is. Not blowing my mind, but it is a little bit. All right, he just said he's shutting down. I told him to have a great day. All right, then we'll get this guy underway here. Yeah, just blowing my mind. I imagine Jazz and Encore are probably keeping the Dash 8s flying in there on a 5,000-foot runway. That's fine. That's not a big deal. But like, no direct service certainly from Victoria to anywhere this summer, besides probably across the way to Vancouver. Maybe you can get the Dash over to Calgary or Edmonton, and anything longer than those, it's like it's just not worth it. Like the Dash is so, relatively speaking, slow. You're better off hopping over to Vancouver, which is what a lot of people do anyways, and catching all the connections in Vancouver. But there are like daily services from Victoria out to Toronto and places like that. Not happening this summer. There's no way there's any Airbuses or anything coming down there. So I'm just curious, how long is the drive from Victoria to Nanaimo? I'm just gonna look it up here. So Nanaimo to BC by car is about an hour and a half. So it's not like a terribly unreasonable drive. I mean, it's awkward, it's inconvenient when the airport's only 10 minutes out of town, but it's not impossible to do. And there is ferry service from Victoria across the way to Vancouver. So again, it's not like people are stranded, but it's just like, it certainly at the height of tourist season, the last thing you need to do is close the airport down. I wonder what's posted on the certainly not impossible for the airliners to use a 5,000 or 6,000 foot runway, but it's certainly going to be tight. Mike Oscar Delta Vancouver. The Victoria information is Alpha. Runway 14 is active. If you like straight into 21, just let me know.
Roger, we'll pick up Alpha, let you know, Mike Oscar Delta.
Yeah, it's just blowing my mind. The principal runway at the airport is closed for 3 months this summer, but like it's crazy. Like the amount of construction going on at all the airports this summer. Every airport's got seems to have a construction project going on. Montreal's down to one runway for the summer. Toronto's got they've had some big apron projects going on so far, and they're looking at like they're going to have more. Um, what am I trying to say here? Looking like they're going to have more. Uh, Apron projects, taxiway projects, and even supposedly there's a
Mike Oscar Delta, God Alpha will request the left-hand visual 1-4.
all right, Mike Oscar Delta. You can expect the visual to 1-4. And are you VMC right now? I'm showing few at 2800 at Victoria.
Mike Oscar, currently VMC can see some white, few clients say over Victoria.
Okay, Mike Oscar Delta. Once you get a little closer in, just let me know when you're requesting your descent.
Welcome.
I can get him down to 20. I can get him down to 3,000 easily. That should probably put him in there between them. And Boundary Bay is going to close once NLB is down and parked. I'm just going to pop open the Boundary Bay view here. I haven't seen anybody in and out of Boundary Bay in quite a while before today. I hadn't seen too much traffic from Boundary Bay in quite a while, but nevertheless, it's nice to see. It's nice to see people using different airports.
United 2070 Heavy is back, and our top descent is in 10 miles.
United 2070 Heavy, Vancouver, Roger, when ready to send flight level 240.
Descent maintains all 240, United 2070 when we're ready.
Yeah, 2070 Heavy, Roger. Information in Vancouver is Charlie, runway 08 left.
We'll go get Charlie 0 left, United 2070 Heavy.
Anyways, hopefully I don't get too many people trying to fly a CRJ over to Victoria and get in for a shock when it's like, the runway's closed, right? Because it's hard enough to get the real world pilots to read the NOTAMs. How do you get the simmers to read the NOTAMs? You probably don't. There's nothing on. Yeah, there's nothing really on Victoria's website about. Nothing really on Victoria's website about the runway being closed. So. Airside pavement 2022. I don't even see anything about the. There's a whole page about projects and planning, and I don't see anything about the construction 0927. You'd think they'd be all over this because that's a pretty big.
Mike Oscar Delta has fuel inside.
Mike Oscar Delta, Vancouver, you're cleared to Victoria Airport, visual approach runway 14.
Clear visual 1-4, Mike Oscar Delta.
Mike Oscar Delta, thanks. The altimeter in Victoria is 29907. Report turning final.
At 2997, clear visual 1-4, Mike Oscar Delta.
All right, he's going to start down momentarily. Maybe is there something about it in the supplements this year? Construction activity at Inuvik. Construction in Hamilton. Construction activities at Toronto Lester B. Vancouver, taxiways Lima 4. Construction at Edmonton Airport. That's right, Edmonton Airport has got a displaced threshold. Kelowna's got a displaced threshold. Yeah, there's a lot of construction happening this summer everywhere. Fortunately, most airports usually have multiple runways they can use, but this is gonna be a crazy summer. Like there's gonna be a ton of flying. People are gonna be very interested in getting back out into the skies flying again, and then we're gonna have a case of what am I trying to say here? Uh, and then we're gonna have all these airports with capacity constraints. And Toronto is one that is as quickly getting back to being almost running at close to 100% capacity, and then they're going to start taking the capacity offline. They're going to take 0523, which is going to reduce the capability to operate the airport by about 40%. It's going to be tough. Well, this is not nearly as busy as I had hoped, but what are you going to do? Hopefully we'll get a few more people interested.
United 2070 Heavy, we got Charlie.
United 2070 Heavy, Roger. Got one guy logged into Vancouver with no flight plan. That's basically all I got right now. I got United 2070 and I got another inbound to Vancouver that is hours away. That's probably I'm not going to be here to see the arrival of. I can't even, zooming out on VATSIM, I can't even see where he is. He is just passing into Minneapolis airspace from Chicago airspace. So yeah, it's going to be a while before he gets here. Came from Atlanta going to Vancouver. And that's it. That's all I've got right now. So hopefully it's a time of day. That's why I was like, I really want to do Toronto too, because like it's almost afternoon into evening in Toronto. It's going to be probably reasonably busy. Although even looking at Toronto, it's not terribly busy right now. But especially yeah, here on the West Coast, it's just lunchtime. So it's going to be a while before it gets busy here on the West Coast. All right, United is just starting down there. Here he comes. Once these two guys land, I'm gonna have nothing. Unless I can get that at Air Canada 102 to at least file a flight plan and get out of here. It's amazing and annoying how quickly the traffic can fall away. All right. Meantime, my tablet, which is my
We might need to do a holding pattern, United 2070 Heavy, because we were planning it right, and then we had like a weird approach that would have cut off more altitude for us. Could we get a holding pattern?
United 2070 Heavy, just continue to follow the star. The altitude restrictions and actually all the restrictions on the star cancel. Just follow the star for now, and I'll give you vectors to lose altitude when you get a little closer.
Roger, thank you.
All right, just gotta plug in the tablet here. Because I realize it's gonna run out of battery before too long if I just keep on using it here. So get that cord out of the way so you guys don't get in your way. There we go. And my life is just full of cables, wires, and everything right now. If you can see this, the desktop directly in front of me. Okay, let's have a look here. Victoria. 120 at 11. All right, so pretty much once he turns final, we'll clear him to land with an updated wind. United 2070 Heavy, continued descent 8,000.
Down at 8,000, United 2070 Heavy.
Yeah, 2070 Heavy, thank you. And the Vancouver altimeter is 29905. Okay.
Roger.
Come on, somebody log in and make my day interesting. CGOOB. That's somebody. I was gonna say if he was, coming into the TCU and he's still at like 25, 30,000 feet, yeah, he seemed like he was high on the approach on the descent. And again, it comes down to kind of experience, knowledge, knowing things to look for, mistakes that have been made in the past, and knowing what to look for. And this is one of those things too. Like, you've seen rookie pilots kind of do it a lot, and the automation does not plan all around it. You've got all these restrictions in the star, and then the star automatically, or the FMCs automatically plan to fly the whole star and the whole approach. So in this case, like for his star, it's planned him all the way out here and all the way basically out here to Triel. And then it's thinking that he's going to cut in. So the plan is that he's going to go all the way out here and do like a 20, I think that's a 20-mile final. That is a 30-mile final, actually. So a long downwind leg. And the whole reason the downwind leg exists is so that you'll keep flying that leg until the controller pulls you over in sequence. But the FMCs plan on that whole distance. So if there's no altitude restrictions in here other than like pass above certain altitudes, which is basically what most of these restrictions are, although there is a 10 to 12 that he missed here completely. But if you don't have those restrictions in there, then you end up being super high, and the controller can't cut you in because you're just so high. So it's incumbent on the pilots to sort of make a plan that's kind of realistic with the traffic flow and kind of the potential expected shortcuts that you're going to likely to get. Like I could turn him final like here if he was at like 4,000 by the time he got here. I could just bring him straight in and in around Omrad. If he's down to like 4,000 here, I can bring him around through Mecam and all these, MCAM, that's the fix, that's right, MCAM, all these different fixes. But if you leave the FMC alone, it often plans this whole distance, and so it plans you on descending that whole distance, so it doesn't start you down until very late, because his FMC thinks he's still 100 miles to touchdown, or 70 miles to touchdown, 30 miles out and 30 miles back, which is not at all the case. Mike Oscar Delta, you can disregard the call turning final. Victoria wins 110 at 11, clear to land, runway 14.
Clear to land 14, Mike Oscar Delta.
So this is where, this is again where a little bit of experience and knowledge, trumps just automation. And it's funny some of the stuff I've been reading lately, with the WestJet pilots obviously threatening to go on strike. People are saying, oh, the airplanes practically fly themselves these days. Well, yeah, they do. They fly themselves, but it still requires someone to program them, to give them a realistic program that is likely to result in success. And that's where pilots are making their money these days. It's not necessarily totally in the hands and feet flying skill department, but it's in the overall flight management department, which still takes a lot of mental effort to do and be ready for all sorts of changes, be ready to react to different changes. It's a very dynamic environment, and that's the part that people kind of don't think
Could
about.
United 2070 Heavy extend our downwind? We still need some more altitude.
Yeah, United 2070 Heavy, just continue flying the arrival.
Roger.
Unless you don't have it programmed incorrectly. Which lots of people do not. They take shortcuts and put transitions in there, but in reality, you have to fly the whole star until someone tells you not to. So you got to be ready to take that out and be ready to not fly, but at the same time, like the star says, Goxon, Vinlow, and then track 263. So you've got to be ready to fly that whole track. United 2070 Vancouver, descend 3,000.
Down at 3, United 2070 Heavy.
Did I not pull up the Victoria? That's funny. I did not yet pull up the Victoria ground view. That's funny. Oscar Delta. Welcome to Victoria. Where are you parking today?
I'm actually going to the Flying Club. Can I vacate 03?
Mike Oscar Delta, yeah, if you got it, you can taxi 03 Echo Sierra to the Flying Club.
03 Echo Sierra to the club, Mike Oscar Delta.
All right, so he needs to lose about 5,000 more feet before I could turn him. So when he's about 2,000 feet lower, it'll be enough, hopefully, to turn him inbound. And even 3,000 MCAM is pretty forgiving. So, yeah, but this is the kind of thing that's a perfect example of the sort of thing that like an experienced pilot kind of knows what to look for, knows that these things are going to happen, knows they're probably going to get shortcuts, especially if they can hear that it's not busy, if they know the time of day that it's not busy. If you know it's a busy time of day or you know the center's backed up, then okay, you're not going to plan so much on these low descents. But yeah, absolutely give yourself room to get down quickly when you need to. Program the descent to be a little shallower under the normal circumstances so that perhaps when you do get a cut in, you can quickly drop some drag, speed brakes, flaps perhaps, first or second stage of flaps, and then start descending a lot steeper. United 2070 Heavy, turn left heading 170.
Left 170, United 2070 Heavy.
So yeah, the airplanes are generally highly automated in this day and age, but there's still a lot to be said for experience and the ability to see the problems with the automation and the way the automation is programmed. It's not always very smartly done. It's kind of planned out on sort of ideal circumstances that often do not happen. Real life is seldom ideal. Oh, where's he going? Left turn, left turn. And United 2070, you're in the left turn to 170.
Yep, we're turning left 170, plan to go right. We're making the left now, United 2070 Heavy.
Yeah, 2070 Heavy, thanks. And just continue the left turn around heading 110 to intercept. You're cleared the ILS, runway 08 left.
Left to 110 intercept, the runway 8 left localizer, cleared ILS, 8 to left, United 2070 Heavy.
All right. Cleared for the approach. Swing him back around, and after this guy lands, then I'm going to have no airplanes. What happened to that guy that was... Nope, Air Canada 201 or 102 disappeared. Darn it. I got one guy in the ground in Boundary Bay. He's got no flight plan, doesn't appear to be doing anything just yet, and that's all I got right now. I got nobody inbound to Victoria, nobody inbound to Kelowna, one guy inbound to Vancouver, who is probably about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours from touchdown. So I might still be here, but at the rate we're going, if stuff doesn't start to happen soon, I may just end up logging off out of sheer boredom. And it's not, I hate to give up on it completely like that, but if there's no traffic at all, there's no point in me being here. The stream is going to get very boring. Yeah. Fortunately, I have had a chance to put out some other videos. I could use this time instead of streaming and go work on my next systems video. I did put out just this morning the final video in my Embraer tutorial series, how to fly the Embraer, basics of how to fly it from one end to another. So I did the after landing and shutdown video, and it's actually a really short video too. It's only 6 minutes long. It took me about 3 weeks to make it, but it's only about 6 minutes long. Part of the problem was that the shutdown checklists have changed over the years, so I was using a newer version of the shutdown checklist that doesn't actually compare to the one I had linked on the videos. So I ended up having to go back and re-record part of it to kind of match what was on the videos, or what was on the checklist to the videos. So it took a lot longer. I was kind of ready to finish it, and then yeah, I have the wrong one. Never mind. So that kind of set me back a little bit. Yeah, and then I could start work. I could start work today on the next systems video if nothing else much happens. Like I said, I kind of want Toronto because Toronto tends to just sort of lure people in more regularly. There's enough airports nearby that people fly in and out of. But even Toronto, I'll be honest, I'm just looking at it right now. It's not that busy this afternoon. Let's see, there's an arrival controller on right now, so the center controller's only got 1, 2, 3 airplanes in his airspace right now, so not doing a whole lot better than I am. Actually, probably two of them are probably already almost over to the terminal unit. Um, that being said, there's a number of inbounds at least, and there's enough busy airports close by that people kind of fly a lot of flight plans in and out of Toronto pretty quickly. Montreal, Ottawa, Chicago, New York, Boston. There's a lot of nearby airports that people kind of go in and out of to Toronto, but Vancouver, we do have quite a bit though. It's vectors that people don't often think of. Oh, look, Edmonton Center's online. That probably will bode well for us to get some people on there. Actually, we're doing pretty good here now. Winnipeg's online as well. So everything from Toronto west in Canada is now online. Just missing Montreal and Moncton this afternoon. Um, yeah, there's some good length flights in here. Uh, you know, Kelowna to Vancouver is a pretty decently short flight. It's a 30-40 minute flight. It's great. I mean, you get some of that cross strait traffic, Vancouver and back. It's gonna be a little bit more challenging today with runway 27 closed. The one that surprised me that we don't see more often is kind of people coming from Seattle or Portland to go to Vancouver and vice versa, because Portland Tower's online, or Portland Terminal's online right now, and yet we don't often see that. There's not a lot of That's a hop that even though it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to do, people see Seattle or Portland online. It tends to be mostly American pilots, and they tend to all fly to other points in America. It's just Canada just never seems to be on the radar for a lot of the American pilots ever. So I, you know, obviously United 2070 were on his radar, and thank you very much for that. But that's oftentimes that's not the way it happens. But there are enough sort of nice sort of relatively short flights. And when I say nice, I just mean short flights because not that there's anything wrong with the long flights per se, but just in the nature of the hobby where most people only usually have a couple of hours, and especially because if you're kind of trying to react to the ATC that's online, you don't want to start a 4 hour flight based on there's ATC on the destination right now because chances are in 4 hours that that ATC is not going to be there anymore. That being said, the other day we took off from Portland and we went all the way down to DFW, and the controller logged on just shortly after we left Portland, and he was there all the time we got there in DFW. So yeah, it's not to say it never happens, but the shorter flights kind of work out better if you're trying to sort of react to the ATC that's online, because 3 to 4 hours is often 2 to 3, 4 hours is kind of the typical controlling session. Anything you're looking at time windows much longer than that, you're not very likely to get ATC online unless there's some known reason why there's going to be ATC. There's an event or something happening. So eh, there's a decent number of airports, but Toronto seems to definitely have a lot more airports within that 2 hour range. You get the whole U.S. Northeast within that 2 hour range, so you get a lot of kind of people who can log on and do those trips spontaneously. It's a little tougher in Vancouver, and I'm trying to bring up the wins in Vancouver, and just because I'm talking about Toronto, I brought up the wins in Toronto. Of course, never fails. United 2070 Vancouver, winds 200 at Niner, gust 16, clear to land, runway 08 left.
8 left, clear lane, 2070 heavy.
All right, we got lots of new ATISs popping up here. Hourly sequences. Yeah, we don't use the Q word, but it seems a bit Q. Yeah, exactly. I was hoping that being online. I've been online for about an hour and 10 minutes now, hour and 15 minutes. I was hoping traffic would start to pick up a little bit. You usually get a couple guys logged in to fly a flight out of Vancouver by now, but nope. Again, and this is like the other thing too is just the side of the country that I'm on too. Like I was planning to do Toronto because it's really like rush hour in Toronto right now. For anyone who's in the Eastern time zone right now, it's just you're into the VATSIM rush hour. It is now 4:15. Yeah, 4:15. Just coming into the late afternoon, into the dinner hour. People are kind of looking for their evening hobbies to have some fun. So now would be like a great time to kind of be online, and the traffic's probably going to continue to pick up steadily. Whereas on the West Coast here, it's just after lunch, so people got their whole day ahead of them. They're going to go out and do stuff before they come home and sit on the computer all day. Uh, it's going to be a little bit tougher, I think, to lure in the West Coast traffic, unfortunately. What can you do? Sometimes that's just the way it goes. Well, give us a chance to talk about other things. Continue to talk about the labor relations in this country, because We did manage to avoid an airline strike last week, or was it the week before? I guess it was the week. Was it Friday night? The week before? It was the week before. So it was a week, just over a week ago. Managed to avoid that airline strike, um, just barely. And I don't know. I've started to read some of the stuff about it. It's not terrible. The agreement's not terrible in principle. It's got some good stuff in it. It's got some good wins on it. The sad thing is that, like, at the end of the day, a lot of the financial gains were given up for the other wins. The biggest win, really, that the WestJet pilots told their union that they wanted when they were doing surveys and everything in preparation for the negotiations. The biggest thing the pilots told their union that they wanted a single pilot group in the airline. They didn't want three pilot groups. They didn't want the WestJet pilots, the swoop pilots, and the Sunwing pilots, all with different work rules, different salaries and everything. They wanted one working group. The pilots are all flying the same airplane. They're all flying 737s, except for the few that are flying the Dreamliner. But for the most part, they're all flying the same airplane anyway. Sunwing and Swoop are all still the same airplane. They wanted the same pay scale for everybody. So that was one thing that they did get, and that is a big win to me. That's definitely a big win because the more internal divisions you have within a company, the more the company is able to pit the employees against each other, the easier it is for the company to end up spending very little because the employees are competing with each other. United 2070, welcome to Vancouver. Convenient right turn off the runway, and where are you parking?
Right turn off A to the left, and we'll take any gate, United 2070.
All right, United 2070, let's see here. Came from Anchorage, so a transporter gate will give you gate 75. So turn right on Mike 7, taxi Mike Sierra to gate 75.
Mike 7, Mike Sierra to 75, United 2070, heavy. Thanks, have a good night, or good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon. There you go, gate 75 is marked. Okay, Emirates send me a message here. So Emirates 216 is asking me exactly that. How long am I going to be online? And I pretty much gave him the honest truth. It depends. I was planning another couple hours, 2 to 3 hours. But if nobody shows up for the next 30 to 60 minutes, then there's just no point in me being here. So I'm gonna kind of keep my fingers crossed, try to find some stuff to talk about, not wear up my voice too much. But yeah, it is. Let's see here in Vancouver. It is 1:20. So if by 2 o'clock Vancouver time, 40 minutes from now, I have not seen another airplane or evidence that an airplane is coming, I'm gonna bail. And that's probably me being patient, really, honestly. Like, that's 40 minutes from now. If nothing happens in the next 40 minutes, what's even the point of me being here? Let's see here. Oh, nope. With this guy in Boundary Bay, did he do anything? Nope. He's just sitting there waiting for something to happen. It's a very quiet day here. Oh, and he missed Sierra. Close enough. He's the only guy there, so I really don't care too much where he parks at the end of the day. But yeah, I don't want to use the word quiet, but boy, is it quiet. So yeah, I mean, we can talk about, labor relations, and it's interesting to kind of read a lot of the online comments, and the general public does not have a whole lot of concern, but certainly pilots in Canada were watching this potential strike with interest because WestJet is kind of the tip of the iceberg. They're the sort of the first people that are coming up for a negotiation right now, while this business is going absolutely insane, gangbusters this year. Like, most of the airlines, we got load factors into the 80s easily. Um, you know, now is the time. Now is the time to ask for a pay raise. When things are going well, we have to work that much harder to kind of keep everything going because the airlines just cannot hire enough people and ramp up fast enough. Uh, I think all the airlines would like to buy more airplanes, and the fact is, like, they can't because there's nobody to fly them. But yeah, so it's interesting to read like some of the comments about WestJet's potential tentative agreement. Some people seem to think it's good. Some people, you're going to get both sides of the fence. Some people really are not don't think it's a good deal. Talking about like over the 4 years uh, the 4 years of the contract that they're proposing is a 25% pay increase, which sounds like a lot on paper, but at the end of the day, the first almost 15% of that is just to make up for the last 2 years, where the inflation rate over the last 2 years pretty much topped 15%. Um, so the first more than half of that pay raise really is just going to pay for inflation from the last 2 years. It's just trying to get back lost ground and try and put themselves back where they were 3 years ago. And then the remainder, yeah, so then you're looking at the remainder of it as a 10% pay bump. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's not stellar. Could have been better. Uh, it's a 4-year contract, so it's not a super long contract. Negotiations will come back up in 2027. Maybe they can get another fairly substantial gain if we can hold inflation down a little bit. Then the gains might be a little bit more worthwhile. I mean, this one, they've sort of set the bar though, I think, and I don't think you're going to see any of the other unions accept anything less than that as a minimum. It's tough to be the guys right on the leading edge too, because they're going to be the guys that are going to that risked the most and probably will gain the least, and the other airlines are going to look at it as this is the benchmark now that the other unions are going to look at it as the benchmark. This is the benchmark we have to make, we have to beat in order for us to remain competitive as an airline. So you can bet Air Canada is going to be probably looking at that and saying, well, if that's what they got, that's what we're going to give our pilots, and that's going to be the end of it. Whether or not that's a good thing.
Vancouver Centre, Harbour Air 502, requesting VFR clearance to Charlie Alpha Echo 5. We're at Vancouver Harbour.
Harbour Air 502, Vancouver, good day. Squawk code 0714. At the International, we've got information Delta. The altimeter is 296, and the winds are 210 at 10 gust 16.
Copy the winds, altimeter 296 and squawk 6714 for Harbour 502.
And Harbour 502, it's 0714.
Oh, Roger, 0714, squawk 0714 for Harbour 502.
Harbour Air 502, that is all correct. And advise me when you're ready for takeoff run.
We'll advise when ready for takeoff, Harbour Air 502.
A float plane, how fancy. Hooray, at least it's something. 5 seconds ago, I was like, oh, if nothing comes up, I'll just not show up anymore. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be ungrateful. It's something. CAE 5. What is CAE 5? It's not even. Nope. Nope, doesn't even know it. Okay, let's see if I can find it here in my Navigraph database, because my scope does not even know what CAE 5 is. My Navigraph charts are always being signed out. All right, let's do this. See if I can find where. Come on, Navigraph. Let me sign in. Honest to God.
Vancouver Centre to Harbour Air 502, we're ready for takeoff.
Why won't Navigraph let me in? Harbour Air 502, the Vancouver International winds are 210 at 10 gust 16. Lift off your discretion from the harbor. Report airborne.
Clear for takeoff, I'll stay harbour, report when airborne, harbour at 502.
Ah, for crying out loud. She's being a real bear today. Why can't I log in? Honestly.
Vancouver Centre, harbour at 502, reporting airborne, passing through 300, speed 90 knots.
Harbour 502, Vancouver, thank you very much. And you can report clearing the zone to the... Are you heading out to the west, I take it?
No, we're heading out to north to Green Lake up in by Whistler, harbour at 502.
Okay, Harbour 502, report clearing the zone to the north.
Roger, harbour at 502.
Okay, why can't I... Why is my password not working for Navigraph? Now it's driving me nuts. I'm going to have to figure this out, why it's not working. And I don't know why it's not working. And yet it still does not want to log in. I don't get it. What the heck is my Navigraph password? That should be it. I don't understand why it's not working. Oh my god. Did someone hack into my account and change my password? That would be annoying. Okay, I think I know what the password is supposed to be. Nope, still says invalid password. Hmm. Don't know why it's not working, but my Navigraph password is not working. Okay, hey, look, we got a
Good afternoon, Vancouver Centre. Flare 40 will to pick up IFR to Edmonton today.
Edmonton. Flare 40, Vancouver. Hello, you're cleared to Edmonton via the Vancouver 1 departure, correction, Vancouver 2 departure, and flight plan route departure runway 08 left, squawk code 075
Hey, for more clear to Edmonton via the Vancouver 2 departure, then as filed, departure runway 08 left, squawking 0753, Flare 40.
Flare 40, that readback is correct. Information information Delta is current in Vancouver. Push and start at your discretion. Call ready for taxi.
Hey, for we'll call for taxi at Flare 40.
Okay. Okay, my password has been changed, so I don't know what happened to it. Should have been working. Technology is great until it doesn't work. And then you have to update your saved password on all of your devices that you save your password on, because I don't necessarily try to remember this one because it's not like it's a super mission critical one. I mean, I do pay for the service, but it's not like if I am unable to access it for a period of time, I'm going to be hard done by or anything. So, okay. I can't even remember why I wanted to sign into now. Oh yeah, I remember why I wanted to sign into Navigraph now. I just wanted to see where this airport was. The whole reason why I was doing this is, it's funny how you end up on these tangents. I literally forgot why the heck I was doing this. All right. So he is going to CAE5. CAE5. Which again is still not recognized. Not even Navigraph knows where CAE5 is. So some small little private strip, I guess. Whistler Green Lake Seaplane Base.
Center Harbor F502. It's 20 miles out, requesting out of sundown into Green Lake by Whistler.
Harbor Air 502 Vancouver. VFR descent is at your discretion. The Vancouver altimeter is still 2906, and you can switch to the onward frequency. I have no traffic observed reported between you and Whistler.
Roger, Whistler Unicom 132.8 and altimeter 2906. Descend at our discretion. Harbor at 522. Thanks for your service. Have a good night.
Take care. All right. So we've also got another departure here. Now, I do notice that this, and I was looking at this guy's flight plan. I gave him the flight plan route once he kind of gets airborne. We can talk about it. Because he does have just a very basic route with nothing in it. He's got one waypoint, which is fine by me, but Edmonton's not going to like me if I let him fly this route, so I may have to do something about this, or revise this route in one way or another here. But at least you got a couple airplanes now, because it was about to become a real snooze. All right. Got a couple of people outbound from Vancouver to Edmonton. Still not much going on here. This Emirates guy, 216 guy. Oh, he did respond to watch a movie or taking a little nap. Hadn't seen. Where is this guy, Emirates, here, anyways? He did respond. I never even saw the fact he responded. Let's see here. Emirates 216. Where is he? Emirates 216. Show me on the map. Yeah. He's going to kind of cross our airspace, I think.
Vancouver Centre, hello, Air Canada 102 with Delta IFR to Edmonton.
Air Canada 102 Vancouver, good afternoon. You're cleared to Edmonton via the Vancouver 2 departure, vectors to Vidri flight plan route. Departure runway 08 left, squawk code 0776.
Cleared Edmonton, Vancouver 2 departure, vectors to Vidri as filed, runway 08 left and squawk 0706, Air Canada 102.
Air Canada 102, it's actually squawk 0776.
Squawk 0776, Air Canada 102.
Air Canada 102, thank you. The readback is correct. Information Delta in Vancouver. Push and start at your discretion. Call me ready for taxi.
We'll call you for taxi, Air Canada 102.
So 50 north, 120 west. Oh, he is actually showing up on my Yeah, no, he's going to go right through our airspace. Yeah, no. That's the thing. Is like I can say, yeah, right now I don't need you to be on my frequency, but in an hour I may need you to be on my frequency. I've got a couple departures that are going eastbound. They may need, I may need to maneuver you around them. So yeah, I'm not going to commit now to. Oh yeah, he said I want to go watch a movie. I want to go watch a movie or have a nap. If you're going to go out, watch a movie or have a nap, if you're going to leave the flight deck for more than 30 minutes, disconnect from the bloody network. That's just that's the rule of the network, anyways. And I'm willing to kind of give you a leeway on that a little bit sometimes, but I'm not. Yeah, I you're going to cross right through my traffic flows, so I'm definitely not going to say that's okay by me because I don't know what's going to happen in an hour or two. It might get busy enough that I need him on frequency. I might have a couple crossing traffic. I don't need to be just sitting there not talking to him. So no, I that kind of bugs me a little bit. The asking for permission to just sort of leave the flight deck unattended. If you really want to go and do that, if you really want to go have a nap, disconnect from the network and just keep flying with disconnected. Reconnect later when you have a chance. But if you want to fly, the network, be ready to talk on it. It blows my mind, like the number of people. Like I get it when people step away. I totally get it when people step away when it's quiet. There's no ATC online right now. I totally get it when people step out and they have to go to the bathroom or go grab a meal or whatever. That's fine. Nobody complains about that. But like, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm just gonna leave my airplane on the network. I'm gonna go to bed and come back in 4 hours. Like that. That is irresponsible, and I think it shows a lack of respect for the other people who use the network. ATC could log on at any time. Just because they're not here right now doesn't mean somebody's not going to log on in 20 minutes or half an hour. You've got to be ready to talk to those people. I get nervous when I leave my connection unattended for like 10 minutes. If I'm flying somewhere and I go grab lunch or something, I get nervous. Like I have remote desktop on my phone, and I actually go and check it out sometimes and watch just to make sure like that there's no pinging, or I'll turn the volume on my computer way up so I can hear the V pilot pings on in another room in the house, uh, and then some people just don't care about that. And they'll stay connected to the network for hours and hours without even checking in on their airplane, and then they'll suddenly show up and it's been 25, 30 people trying to contact them. It's been a whole slew of controllers, and people have been vectored around them because they're not online, they're not responding. So it's you don't want to be on the network. That's fine, but if you're going to be on the network, be on the network. And certainly there's reasonable exceptions to that, but you can't expect just a free pass. All right, anywho. What else can we talk about? While I'm waiting for some stuff to happen down here in Vancouver. So Harbour Air's down there on the ground. I imagine they're probably going to turn around and come back. Yeah, I have mixed emotions about that. He's talking about his Captain Sim aircraft, and yeah, I have mixed emotions about it. Like, I get people that want to fly a specific aircraft type, and as long as it looks kind of like the right airplane, then people want to fly it. But like the way Captain Sim does some reasonably look good looking visuals, but then there's absolutely nothing inside. It's just built on top of other aircraft. Like I think their 777 is built on top of the default 787, just with a different external view, a different external look to it. So there's no realism at all to flying it. And it's nice to have things that are pretty to look at, but yeah, maybe it's just my take, because for me as a pilot, how it flies is more important than how it looks. 90% of my time is spent inside. 95% of my time simming is spent inside the flight deck looking out. I don't care what the airplane looks like from the outside. inside. I
Thank
want
you, sir.
to be realistic inside.
Harbour Air 502, speed 120 knots, going to move 4,200, and we are on our way back to Vancouver Harbour. Will do.
And Harbour Air 502 Vancouver, squawk, you're still on the same code there, 0714?
Yep, still squawking 0714 for Harbour Air 502.
Harbour Air 502, squawk ident.
Ident, Harbour Air 502.
Harbour Air 502, thanks. Identified. Information at the International is still about the same. Information is Delta. The altimeter down there is 299.6, and the winds at the International are 211 gust 18.
Copy winds, and altimeter 199.6 Harbour Air 502.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how it's going to work over flying the pole. I'm like, yeah, even the best real world airplanes start to get confused when they start to get up near the poles. It's like, how does latitude end, and how do I suddenly like fly over and I'm suddenly in the same place I was before? Says he's waiting for the PMDG 777. Yeah, and that's just it. Like, if you want certain aircraft types, like I get it. Like, and that's Captain's, one of Captain Sim's big markets is that because they do good visuals, but they do absolutely almost zero system work. Uh, they can bring airplanes to market quickly and relatively easily, and they'll get some money for that from some people who are just like, yeah, I just want to be able to fly the 777. But it's really flying the 777 if it's 87 avionics with a 777 body wrapped around it. It's definitely not for me. I cannot operate that way, but it's not to say that other people can't. I mean, everyone's different. Says he's excited about the idea that PMDG will release the 777 hopefully this year, and I'm like, yeah, maybe they'll even release the EFB this year too, because it's one of those things. He says, I think the EFB is going to be released in 2080.
Okay, Vicente, Harbour Air 502. We're about 35 miles out, requesting a descent into Vancouver Harbour.
And Harbour Air 502, VFR descent is at your discretion.
Roger, descent at my discretion, Harbour Air 502.
A lot of work too for this airplane. I'm assuming he's in the Twin Otter, right? Yeah, he's in the Twin Otter. A lot of work for this airplane to get up to Whistler, where he's got to climb up to 13,000 feet to make it over the bloody mountains, just to get back down again. On what is like a 40-mile flight? Not even. Yeah, basically a 40-mile flight, but he's got to climb to 13,000 feet to make it over the mountains and back again. That's why, like, I asked him, like, I thought he would just go west and kind of cruise at 5,000 feet, and just go up the valley to Whistler instead. He certainly does have it at idle and just dropping it like a rock, though. Harbour Air 502, the Vancouver Airport winds 200 at 10 gust 18, cleared to land the harbour at your discretion.
To land at the harbour at my discretion, Harbour Air 502, thanks for have a good night.
And Harbour Air 502, just report when you're on the water, please.
Roger, we'll report when we're on the water, Harbour Air 502.
CCLC. I got an airplane on the ground in Kelowna. Okay, so maybe it's not going to be a complete and total snooze fest as we go here. Hopefully. I'm excited that things might happen a little bit here. It's not the most exciting day. I think Toronto's suffering from the same thing. I think it's just summer too. It's just, yeah, there's 1,200 connections to the network. Most of them are in Europe. They got 5 departures programmed out now. But I'll be honest that even if I had logged to Toronto Center is doing about the same as me right now. Terminal's online, and there's quite a bit of stuff kind of coming and going from Pearson right now. But as the center controller, kind of a bit of a snooze there as well. So actually, this probably is working about on par. I like Toronto. I know Toronto so well. It's my home base. I like it. I like it a lot. I kind of miss when I don't get to do it, but that guy came down really fast though. Hmm. All right, so he should be down. He's 100 feet.
Vancouver Centre, Harbour Air 502, we are on the water.
Harbor Air 502, thank you very much, and taxi in at your discretion. Have yourself a great day.
Taxi in my discretion, have a good day. Harbour Air 502.
Emirates wants to know when he's entering my airspace. Yeah, it's a. Yeah, it's gonna be about an hour. Yeah, he'll enter my airspace, so that's fine if he wants to take a break, step away while there's nobody there right now, and like I really don't care too much about it. Like that's totally fine, but just don't ask a controller, hey, I just don't want to be online at all in your airspace. If you really don't want to be online, don't be online at all. Just log off. It's still kind of it's bugging me a little bit. It's it's one of those things because I try not to be that guy who misses calls and like okay sometimes I will and like I'll miss a call for 10 minutes because I'm finishing my lunch or whatever. But I see like these people that they just like I've worked Edmonton and I've been online for 3 hours and an airplane was trucking across my airspace for the whole 3 hours. Numerous attempts to contact them and not one single reply for 3 hours plus. So the person's just not even at the airplane for more than 3 hours. That is I mean that's an obvious and total flagrant violation of the VATSIM code of conduct. All right, so this guy's going to Cal 3. What's Cal 3 here? Douglas Lake. Show me Douglas Lake. Little tiny aerodrome kind of west of Kelowna. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. Let's go. I got you. Air Canada 102 is going to call for taxi here shortly. He's got his flight plan filed.
Air Canada 102, request taxi.
Air Canada 102 Vancouver, runway 08 left, information Delta, altimeter 29906. Let's see here. Taxi out Papa, Mike, and hold shoot 08 left.
Taxi runway 08 left via Papa, Mike, and information Delta, altimeter 29906, Air Canada 102.
All right, he's on the move. We got an airplane. We got an airplane. Ah! I'm excited by the smallest things. When it's been 30 minutes and I've only talked to one person, it does get a little bit boring. All right, what else? I'm trying to think what else happened recently. I mean, to me, like the big deal is like labor relations this summer because it's going to make a big difference to me in the long run, and I'm certainly hoping for some good things. Let's see what else was there. So yeah, Phoenix shares a massive update regarding A320 version 2. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting read. I read most of their blog post on that, and one of the biggest things I think is coming out of it is obviously they're getting the IAE engines, which a lot of people want, which is totally understandable. But part of the reason why it's just been such a big process and a very no real updates in the interim is because they're basically rewriting the aircraft again for version 2. The problem with version 1 is they made a decision early on. They made a decision early on to kind of support or to not use Asobo's SDK for displaying their screens, and basically they would externally render all their screens and using a separate using a separate program. And they do not just the screens. There's a number of things that they completely handle outside of the Asobo processes to avoid a lot of the shortcomings with the Asobo SDK and the processes that Asobo uses. However, what they found was about halfway through their work on version 1, all of a sudden, I forget which update dropped, but one of the sim updates dropped that made some huge performance improvements and improved the compatibility with being able to render custom displays within the sim, which was not something that was really feasible the way the sim was originally set up. So, of course, by this time they were so invested in their external software that it actually kind of broke their internal software already, but they managed to kind of run with it and finish it with the existing kind of version 1 with all the external software running. And I've commented on this, like the external processes that the Phoenix runs, they do use quite a bit of resources. Like you're talking 10, sometimes 20% of the CPU usage is going at these external processes, which is not a terrible thing. I mean, other sims in the past, other aircraft in the past, certainly in the P3D era, have operated under similar circumstances where a vast portion of the computing is offloaded outside the sim to make it more what am I trying to say here? To make it more um, flexible, make the developers able to do exactly what they want to do. The Majestic is another example where a lot of the flight dynamics were just exported out of the sim, so the sim was used to kind of draw a world around the aircraft, but then none of the aerodynamics, of that sim were used, and Majestic basically did a completely external model, and sometimes that's a great way to overcome the limitations of the sim. But what the Phoenix kind of figured out after these major sim updates is that Asobo actually managed to do a lot of the stuff that they were hoping. The trouble was that when they were deep in the development process, Asobo would never give them any firm answers. Oh yeah, we're going to do some updates to rendering custom screens eventually, and that was basically all they ever got was and eventually we're going to do it, but they never really got much of a time frame. So and all the developers were in the same boat, so all the developers kind of had to make a decision whether to kind of do what Phoenix did and just sort of work externally to the sim and work from there, or whether to wait for the development of the SDK and the tools that they need to come and be integrated into the sim and then work from there. So different developers made different choices. Air Canada 102 Vancouver, contacting 10 airborne, winds 200, 11, gust 17, clear for takeoff, runway 08 left.
Runway 08 left, cleared for takeoff Air Canada 102. Can you say again the frequency?
And Air Canada 102, just call me when you're airborne.
Roger.
Yeah, so some developers opted to kind of play a wait and see game, and a lot of them it did pay off in the end because there was not a huge there was not a huge loss at the end of the day for them. They managed eventually the SDK was worked out in time for a lot of these developers. So PMDG I think kept internal. And I think Leonardo Softhouse also stayed internal. Phoenix took it out, went out on a limb, and tried to do their own thing, and it works, and it's fine. But it does have some big performance penalties that are not accounted for. Asobo has spent a great deal of time tuning the sim and tuning the way the sim analyzes your computer and runs within your computer to maximize the performance within your computer. So the fact that the fact that they ran externally now has actually been turned into more of a hindrance than a help. It was the best decision to make at the time, probably, but it is now, unfortunately, in the long run, it has proven to be that it was probably the wrong choice. Unfortunately for Phoenix and all the effort they put into it, so they've spent most of the last like 6 months rewriting the aircraft almost from the ground up to take advantage of the of what you can do within the sim and uh, stop offloading as much of the processing to the external software and keep most of the processing within the sim so that it runs hopefully a little faster, a little smoother. But that's why they
Air Canada 102 passing 1000 feet.
Air Canada 102 Vancouver, thank you, identified, climb 16,000.
16,000, Air Canada 102.
But that's one of the reasons why it's been so quiet for so long. It's just working through all this, rewriting the airplane from the ground up. So they are promising big performance gains on version 2, and I tend to believe them. I tend to believe them that there are going to be big performance gains. It's going to be it's going to be a new animal when they get version 2 up and running here. So I'm looking forward to that, and it seems like they're kind of getting towards release. It doesn't seem like release is imminent, but they're definitely working their way towards it. It'll be great when it does kind of release because I think that's going to be a big help for me. Like I find that the Phoenix is really that external process really kind of penalizes my computer quite a bit. I have a pretty fast CPU, not a great GPU, but it's still it when you're trying to stream and do a bunch of other stuff on your computer at the same time to kind of make the most of your simming, it really does not, it doesn't do well. But I'm hoping that with this new version, it will improve quite a bit. Then I might be able to actually consider streaming the Phoenix finally. Air Canada 102 at 4,000. Proceed direct Vidri on course.
At 4,000, direct Vidri, Air Canada 102.
Anyway, so that's kind of that's great news to hear that they're kind of coming towards the end of it. They also had to do a bunch of stuff. They also had to do a rewrite of the EFB because their original EFB developer, who was also a pilot, got a job working at a major airline and does not have the time to invest in working on the EFB. So they've had to kind of do a major rewrite of the EFB. What else has happened? There was a whole bunch of stuff covered in that update. They're vastly improving the fidelity of the screens themselves. So the screens themselves were pretty good representations overall of the Airbus, but when you start to look at them closely and compare them to pictures of the actual aircraft, everything was kind of more or less in the right place, but a lot of stuff was not quite sized correctly. The fonts were not quite the correct size. The colors were not quite the correct size. Things were a little bit too big or too small, or just not. Everything was in the right basic place, but sometimes the proportions were not quite right. So for the ECAM, for the PFD especially, there's been a lot of adjustments to make it just that much more real. And as an Airbus driver, like it's good as it is. Like the proportions may not be perfect, but the information is all basically presented there in the same basic location, so you can still get used to taking the information in and out as you need it. Air Canada 102, climb flight level 280.
280, Air Canada 102.
And my guy on the ground in Kelowna disappeared, but I got a couple guys on the ground in Vancouver at least, so, you lose a few, you gain a few. Hopefully we'll get a few more here. Nobody seems to be coming into Vancouver still, though. No arrivals. Edmonton's got to suffer from the same thing here. They've got just a handful of airplanes flying around, not much going on. Toronto, yeah, I don't think this would have been a much more interesting stream in Toronto. There's a controller on terminal that's kind of probably taken a lot of the interest away from the airport itself, the international itself. So there's only a handful of airplanes in the air right now. It would not have been much more exciting, I think, to do Toronto. So anyways, you got to kind of just flex with what happens sometimes. VATSIM, like you don't own the rights to any position. If you don't happen to use a position, then someone else will log in and use it. So all you can do. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. The Phoenix is that's the improvements to the Phoenix. I think are going to be great. I think it's going to really help with the performance. I think I'll finally be able to stream the Phoenix. I'm certainly keeping my fingers crossed that I will be able to stream the Phoenix, and that would be great. Yeah, because it's a great airplane in so many ways, but it's such a performance hog. So apparently they're making huge gains on the performance as a result of all these tweaks and using the inside inside stuff. There's a couple of other good tidbits of information here as well. FS Dream Team released Houston. Released the Houston George Bush Intercontinental Airport, which is another one of those airports that kind of been waiting for a while. There was no real good scenery for it. It's a huge major airport. It's a hub for United, but even so, it's got a lot of service from a lot of other airlines, and there's been nothing for it. The simulator's been out now for 4 years, nothing for it. No. The default scenery was really just god awful. Nobody really put a lot of effort into it. It's a very big airport. It's a huge airport. Covers a huge amount of space. Some very big buildings. Nothing particularly unique about the buildings. Maybe the most unique thing is a little hotel in the middle there, but nothing terribly unique about it. But it's just very big. The generic buildings just didn't cut it. So it's good to see that FS Dream Team has been hard at work. They've been kind of quiet. They released a couple of airports, the Chicago O'Hare, and then they did the Key West, and then they did the GSX Pro, and it's been kind of quiet from them for a long time. So it's good to see that they have been working hard on stuff because they were some pretty prolific producers of airports in the past. And yeah, I would love to see them do a few more of their classic airports. I was kind of hoping for them to do JFK, but now that I Builds has done JFK, it's probably not worth the effort. An improved KDFW would also be nice, especially considering what happened during my last flight stream on KDFW. That was that was not pretty, and I reloaded after I finished my stream. So for those of you that didn't see it, and I haven't posted it yet, but I will post it soon. Basically, on landing in DFW, there were scenery issues. Part of the scenery was loading, and part of it was not. Some of the tiles within the airport were loading, and some of them were not. So you'd end up with these areas that had normal textures, and you'd end up with these ones that had very fuzzy, very low res, long distance textures, very low level of detail textures. And there were then ground elevation adjustments that these tiles were supposed to put in there that didn't get put in there. So I'm trucking down the runway, having just touched down at 100 and something knots still, just getting reversers in, and all of a sudden I hit this step on the runway. The train suddenly went up like 2 feet on the runway. You couldn't quite tell what it was until you hit it. You sort of saw this line coming and couldn't quite tell what it was, and then just hit it, and the nose gear just hit it, and the airplane just went up in the air and came right back down again, and went from 100 knots to 100 knots to 10 knots in a second. It was just so frustrating, and it was because the sim was just not loading the scenery properly. Because I immediately, right after the stream, I then exited to the main menu and then reloaded another aircraft in DFW, and all the scenery loaded just fine. So for whatever reason, it decided that it wasn't going to load half the scenery tiles. And as I was taxiing around the airport, it kind of the same thing kept on happening. I taxied to an area that was really fine detail and sharp, crisp lines and fine elevation. Then all of a sudden, I'd reached this point where there was no detail. It was just a fuzzy taxiway. The elevation was a little tiny bit lower. The bridges were not built over the taxiway. I ended up having to slew myself across the bridge from the west to the east side of the airport because the bridges didn't exist. I was going to go down into this giant chasm onto the road and back up. It was just it was so disappointing too because it was a pretty good flight overall, and then just to have that sort of happen at the end, what a frustration. Air Canada 102, climb flight level 350.
Climb 350, Air Canada 102.
So I would love to see a customized DFW, and hopefully that would solve that problem altogether. I've never seen that problem really before, where the scenery did not load or loaded in small patches like that before. I've never really seen that problem before, but I was reading on forums, and apparently it's not an uncommon problem. Yeah, and there's no way. The only way to really force it to really reload everything is to exit maybe not the sim itself, but to go back to the main menu and then restart at that location. So, yeah, you're just sort of hooped if that ends up happening to you, which is just very frustrating because it was overall a pretty nice flight, it was a pretty good touchdown, and then boom, the airplane suddenly just did this catapult down the run, this cartwheel almost down the runway. It was frustrating. Anywho, the other one that also has got me very interested is VATSIM Studios put out their Calgary scenery finally. They released their Calgary scenery. That's one that I'm looking forward to. Calgary is a very nice airport, very distinctive. You know, well, tallest control tower in Canada, longest runway in Canada. Um, it's not a super busy. It's not Toronto by any means. It's busy, but it's not like hectic. But it can be definitely very steady busy. But it's just not hectic like some other airports are. But nevertheless, it's a big destination in Canada. It's obviously a big home base for WestJet, so it's a fairly big hub for quite a number of airlines. It's one of the last real kind of pieces of the puzzle to fall into place in Canada. I would say the only major Canadian airport now that does not have any good scenery is Montreal Trudeau. That's it. I think is there St. John's? I mean, St. John's is not like a huge airport, but it is kind of an important city in Canada. I feel like there is one from, I think, Sim Add-ons. And that's it. That's the only one right now, Sim Add-ons. And Sim Add-ons is actually pretty good. I can't complain too much about Sim Add-ons. But really, Montreal is the one. Like it's so obviously outstanding as a major airport that needs some good quality payware. When that's done, then Canada will be covered to a reasonable level. All the major airports in Canada will be covered. Winnipeg's sort of they have the MSFS scenery add-on. Um, they're not a great developer. They don't charge a whole lot. You kind of get what you pay for from them. The scenery kind of looks a bit like the real world. Jetways usually don't work. Yeah, honestly, I paid for it. I kind of regretted it afterwards. But again, I won't say desperate, but I really did want to have Winnipeg. But apparently, VATSIM Studios I think is working on Winnipeg, so that's going to be another one that's going to come out soon. But yeah, Montreal's really the big one that's kind of outstanding to me right now in Canada. That's surprising. There's no scenery out there other than one freeware scenery, which is pretty good actually for freeware scenery. It's really quite good, but there's nothing else out there, and it's kind of disappointing. So it's good to see that VATSIM Studios has been working hard and keeping their products coming. There's all sorts of other interesting kind of projects. There's a Parallel 42 releases Striper, which is a load screen enhancement. So basically that makes the load screen in MSFS look nicer. Uh, I don't know what to think about this product as a payware product. I mean, do I get bored with the existing loading screens? Yeah. Do I want to pay money to change them? Not really. And they even say like it's not just about changing the loading screens. Supposedly the load bar is a lot more accurate now in terms of the percentage and sort of the time remaining is a lot more accurate instead of just sort of going in fits and jumps. It's supposed to be a lot more consistently accurate. Yeah. Um, there's some other stuff like you can see like your sim brief flight plan will show up on your loading screen. It'll show you kind of your route as the sim is loading. Or you could just skip the intros altogether. That's kind of nice. Just to skip the little splash screen, the Asobo Black Shark AI screens is kind of fine, but um, the one thing that kind of really might almost make it worth the price is that it will allow you to skip updates. That again, but then it's 14 US dollars. For that price, I don't know if it's worth it, but like the idea of being able to skip the automatic updates, that's not a terrible idea. That actually might be the real kicker, the best feature of the whole thing. Because yeah, how many times have you ever sat down and I want to go flying. I've got this in mind. I've got 3 hours to go flying, and I want to go and do this flight, and it's going to take 2 hours of flying plus an hour of prep time, so it's going to work out perfectly. And then you find out there's a sim update waiting to download, and the thing is, you know the sim updates are coming, but you don't always know when they're coming to your computer. That's the other problem too. Like they don't release the sim updates instantly to everybody. They stage them so that not everyone's downloading larger updates at the same time, which is fine. But it's kind of like there's no way to skip it. So if it's decided that it's your turn to get this update, and you fire up the sim and you find out, oh, there's an update pending, and then you gotta kill 20-25 minutes downloading an update because it's a gigantic update. Now all of a sudden you've really cut into your sim time. So the idea of being able to skip that and then circle back and push the update, after your flight, when you're done your flight, that's 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 a pretty good idea. Uh, is it worth $14 US? Again, I would consider it for half that price. I would consider it pretty strongly for half that price, but for that for 14 US bucks, that's the biggest real selling point of it. It's not a bad utility, kind of a couple things kind of linked together, but nothing that's really a showstopper to me. That update, not being forced to do updates, that to me is probably it's the biggest selling point, and even that, I'm not 100% sure that is worth it. Yeah, not sure. It's certainly it's interesting, and I mean it's not a half bad idea. I get it. I like the idea, but whether it's worth that price, that's a different question, and one I really just not sure I have an answer to. I don't know if it's worth that price or not. Well, at least we got one airplane. We didn't get much more than one, but we got one. Hmm. These guys ever gonna move? Flare called me like 40 minutes ago. Hasn't moved yet. He said logging in and out, so he must be having some kind of issues. 738 max, so. I heard somebody else click the mic there. Who else is clicking the mic here? Is there somebody else I should be aware of? No flight plan. Still don't even see my Emirates there. He's going to be here about half an hour. He'll enter my airspace. He's kind of trucking up through Seattle slowly but surely. Let's see here. Yeah, about an hour and a half, and that one arrival that's inbound to Vancouver will be here. It's a very quiet day here in Canada. Nobody seems to want to fly in Canada too much. It's getting a little busier for Toronto now. There's a handful of airplanes. Starting to see a bunch of these inbounds to Toronto starting to show up. It definitely got busier there. Still in Vancouver. Just a bit of a snooze. I was going to stick around for another 2 hours, but if it stays this quiet, I might bail in another hour. Go work on my next systems video, at least spend a little time on that. I don't want to ban anyone while they're flying here, but it's just not particularly active today. It's honestly making me bored just sitting here. The thing about streaming too is like when you're streaming, you have to engage with the audience. If you're online and you're not streaming and it's this boring, you go find something else to do. You go put some TV on or something like that, and something you can pause or quickly stop if it actually does get busy. But when you're streaming, you kind of want to be engaged and involved the whole time. And I'm losing my interest in engaging right now because it's so boring right now. I would have thought by now, I've been online for about just a little over 2 hours. I would have thought I'd lure in a couple people. I do have a couple people online, but not enough to really make it worth it. Got a couple people online, but they're really not getting going very quickly here at all. Somebody to talk to me? I hope. My expectations are pretty low. Wait a second. Who's this guy? Why are you not talking to me? People just appear on scope. Not talking to anybody. Not interested in calling anybody. Oh, flare pushed. Air Canada's going to be halfway to Edmonton by the time flare's even pushed, let alone taken off here. All right, come on, flare. Let's do something. Let's get it going here.
Vancouver Centre, Air Canada 221 with information Echo at gate 48 in Vancouver, requesting IFR to Calgary.
Air Canada 221 Vancouver, good afternoon. Well, you're cleared to Calgary via the Vancouver 2 departure. Radar vectors daybed flight plan route. Depart runway 08 left, squawk 0756.
Cleared to Calgary, runway 8 left, YVR2 departure, squawk 0756, Air Canada 221.
Air Canada 221, thanks. The readback is correct. Information Echo in Vancouver. Pushback and startup at your discretion. Call for taxi.
Pushback at our discretion, we'll call for taxi. Air Canada 221, thanks.
Wow, these guys are actually quite loud. I'm going to turn them down as well. I didn't realize they were quite so loud. I hadn't even had a chance to look at them. There has been enough talking going on for me to look at it while other people are talking. Maybe it was just that guy, but definitely seemed like it was getting overmodulated. Well, at least we talked to one more person here. Hopefully they'll get going, because I'm starting to lose faith in Flair here. He kind of keeps moving around. I don't know what he's doing. Canada 102 is more than halfway to Edmonton, and Flair hasn't even really started moving yet.
Flare 40, we're ready for taxi. Sorry for the insanely long startup. Our nose gear is locked in place for some reason.
All right, Flare 40, no problem. As long as you're ready to go now. The information in Vancouver is Echo, runway 08 left, and the altimeter 299.5. Taxi Delta and Hotel, hold short 08 left.
A for Delta Hotel 08 left, Flare 40.
I mean, I don't get mad. I wouldn't even care how long it takes to get started up if there was more than one airplane moving through my airspace. So at least there's somebody moving through my airspace, but I am, yeah, just debating if it's even worth staying online. I honestly am. It's been so relatively quiet and definitely not making a very interesting stream today. Definitely not making an interesting stream today. Yeah, I don't see too much reason to really stay on. I'm pretty much making up my mind right now that in about half an hour, I think we're going to just shut the stream down because there's just so little going on. I may or may not log off. I may stay on, but I may work on my other project at the same time. But it's just, yeah, there's not enough going on to really even justify me being here, let alone trying to stream it. So I'm trying to find other stuff to talk about. I'm kind of out of ideas right now, so I'm all ears for anybody who has suggestions on stuff to do, on stuff to talk about, questions about ATC or aviation. There's one guy on the ground over in Nanaimo. I don't know what he's going to do because he's got no flight plan filed. Edmonton came and went. They were here for about an hour and a half, and I think they got bored, so they left. Toronto, they're still online. It's been 2.5 hours. It's kind of getting a little more hectic there. But again, like the terminal unit is absorbing probably most of the interest. They've been on for about the same length of time. I think they actually switched, or maybe he reset the connection because he was on before the center controller, but he's showing less time now than the center controller. Yeah, there's a handful of airplanes in Toronto FIR, more than I've got. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got about 6 airplanes, enough to kind of keep it interesting. So now is the time where I'm getting the regret where I wish I had been on in Toronto. And it was literally about 5 minutes. I had I was getting myself all kind of organized. I didn't want to connect to the network until I was ready to control. And then by the time I actually connected, there was somebody else connected. We do have to just do it. Good. I have a question. Fantastic. I love a question. I love anything to kind of stimulate my brain because I am just about ready to fall asleep here with the lack of things going on. So please fire away your questions. I'm literally falling asleep here. I'm bored out of my skull. Finished my coffee a while ago. Remembered I had some caffeine after all. Finished my coffee like 2 hours ago, and nothing has happened since then. And he's still not moving. Come on, player. The other account is going to get out of here before you do. And then I'm going to be bored again because there's only 2 departures. You go down to some of these American artsies, and just it blows my mind how many people are flying around in them just on a Saturday afternoon in Albuquerque. This guy in Albuquerque's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 airplanes more or less right now in the air, a bunch on the ground. In an artsy, it's about the same size as Vancouver, give or take. Most of the American artsies are about the same size. They're usually smaller than most of the Canadian ones here. But he's got about 8, 10 airplanes. Fort Worth has got Fort Worth is about the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, the other ones are not quite too busy either. But yeah, I don't know. I yearn for a little bit more excitement. It's funny. I had like I think I was talking about this earlier, but I had someone commented on one of my YouTube videos said I was I went and had my first experience on VATSIM, and I'll respond to your thing in just a second, just while I have my train of thought here. But he was commenting on he went through my tutorials, and then he went and did his first flight on VATSIM, and he said it was he was very disappointed. The controller he felt was pretty rude and kind of harsh with him, and I'm like and he said I even kind of mentioned in the comments that I was a new guy on the network, and yeah, it's kind of got pretty rough treatment, and I did not. Yeah, so I tried to assuage him that that's not the case, and then he's like, yeah, well, I was flying in the UK, and it's like, well, that kind of makes sense because the UK is always busy. Whenever there's a controller online, they're always busy. It's you get the same number of airplanes, during the peak periods, you get the same number of airplanes on in the air in over all of England as you do over all of Canada during Canada's rush hour. So it's a fraction of the space, and so the guys that are covering this are really quite busy. There's a lot more going on usually in the UK. That's not that there's more going on, but it's a lot denser airspace, so it tends to get covered a lot more aircraft. So I said like the controllers in the UK have to be much more on the ball just to handle the volume of traffic, and they kind of expect everyone else is also more on the ball. Like I won't say we're lackadaisical in Canada, but we're very forgiving of rookies in Canada because oftentimes there's not a whole lot going on. If it's very busy, I tend to not have as much time or patience for the rookies. And it's not that I try not to be impatient with them, but I just I need things to happen at a certain pace when it's that busy. And it seems like that's the case in the UK most of the time. So I encourage them to come to Canada and just get used to the idea of flying on the network and communicating with people in Canada before you go back to the UK, just because I don't blame the UK controllers. They're overworked. There's so much going on. It's hard for them to keep up with, and they need everybody on it. All right, watching mentor pilots accident documentaries, it is evident that let me bring it up on the other screen here. It is evident that on occasion there is pilot error. Is there really enough training for all of the unusual situations that happen? Also, it's used that planes are often not engineered with a view that really very unusual things can and will happen, e.g. Boeing putting critical electronics just above the front wheel well in the past, which then got damaged critically when the front landing gear has slammed into the runway. That's a lot of good issues in that, and I love to talk about that sort of stuff. On occasion, there's pilot error. First of all, the first thing I'll say is that it's not on occasion. There is pilot error every day, every flight. There is pilot error, plain and simple. Pilots are human beings like any other human being, and we make mistakes like anybody else. Oh, flare's gone now. So the idea, the original kind of idea behind a lot of the original CRM training was to prevent pilot error. And after decades of trying to prevent pilot error, people have come to the conclusion, and I think that's a very reasonable conclusion, that you will never be able to prevent pilot error. You can probably reduce the frequency of errors through training, but you will never prevent pilot error altogether. There's always going to be
Vancouver
pilot
Centre,
error.
Air Canada 221, ready for taxi.
Air Canada 221, Vancouver, runway 08, left, information, echo, altimeter 299.5, taxi Juliet, Mike 10.
Runway 8 left, taxi Juliet, Mike 10, Air Canada 221.
Yeah, so the first thing is, you have to assume that there is never going to be an error-free flight. Pilots are going to make errors. The most important thing you can do is make sure that the errors are easy to spot, and uh, that there are enough redundant checks in the system that your average daily error will not cause a detrimental problem to the flight, because every pilot will make mistakes, whether it's forgetting an SOP or doing something slightly out of order. You know, going to adjust the autopilot and grabbing the wrong knob and twisting the wrong knob. Pilots are human beings, and they will make mistakes, and this is 100% recognized in the industry now, that pilots will make mistakes. It's a given. You will make a mistake at some point in your career. You will make a mistake at some point pretty much in every flight. The key is, how do you recognize and recover from it? So I think one of the big things is, first of all, is this whole idea of recognizing the fact that we'll make mistakes. Okay, everyone's going to make a mistake. You might as well admit it, face up to it, and deal with it, rather than, in the past, like, oftentimes people make errors. They were unwilling to admit it. There's a lot of pride to it. There's a lot of pride to being a pilot. So just admitting the fact that we do make errors, I think, is a big step up for a lot of pilots. It's a positive step. It's a very positive step, because then when we admit that we've made an error, then we can recover from it a little bit more easily. So whether it be somebody else points it out and we say, "Oh yeah, I did do that incorrectly. I'm going to fix that now," or just somebody else just calls you out on it, and it's not a question of trying to hurt somebody's pride or prove them wrong. It's just a question of, let's get the job done right. And a lot of the people I've talked to in the last little while, a lot of the captains that I've talked to lately, have been the general attitude is, I hate doing paperwork. So if I'm doing something wrong, please stop me so I don't have to do more paperwork later after the flight. Which is 100% the right attitude to have, not the avoiding paperwork, but the avoiding reasons to do paperwork. I don't want to have an incident that requires paperwork. So because we don't want to have incidents, that's kind of the whole point. So is there really enough training for all the unusual situations that happen? I would say probably not. At the end of the day, the odds of any one pilot encountering any one particular situation is pretty minuscule these days. Like, there's pretty minor failures that happen on a regular basis. Things like, okay, a pitot heat fails, or sensor type issues. Maybe the computer has a fault. APU sometimes will sprain an oil leak or something like that. Uh, Most of the faults that happen on a regular daily basis are pretty benign. The odds of any one particular flight having anything pretty detrimental happening are pretty slim. So that being said, you do want to be prepared for these things. The initial training for most types, you're going to go through some pretty intense training. Um, you're going to go through some pretty intense training. You're going to pretty much do all the scenarios. So anything that can go wrong, that is kind of foreseen on the checklist and by the designers, is going to be it's going to be done at least once. So electrical emergencies, double hydraulic failures, double flight computer guidance computers failures, those kind of things. Um, it's You're going to do it once. Whether or not you do it more than once, it's not going to happen all that often. Most of the airlines are usually on a 3-year ish, depends on exactly the airline and the airplane, but you're on something like a 3-year cycle where uh, over the course of the recurrent training on an airplane, you'll cover most of these issues once every 3 years. Some of them you get covered more often. The stuff you're probably more likely to do, go around some category twos and some of the stuff you have to do for certification. But in terms of handling like the very out there emergencies, you're going to do like you might do one emergency descent every 2 years in training, or you might do like I said, the electrical emergency configuration. You might do it once every 3 years in training. It behooves the pilot to constantly kind of be reviewing it, mentally studying it on their own. That being said, I think that we are getting better at this too. The training is becoming more and more useful. For a long time, the regulators had a list of these are the things you got to do every year when you go in the sim, and check the boxes, and boom, you're on your way again. And uh, that was good to a point, but it didn't recognize the dynamics of the flight environment and the company's the dynamics of the company changing over time. Um, it was a pretty fixed list, and it was very inflexible, like because it's not a regulation, but it was a standard within the regulations. It was pretty infrequently changed. What a lot of airlines are switching now to is of course the AQP process, which stands for I can't even think what AQP stands for. But basically, the idea behind AQP is that your training um, is based on data collected about the airline. Let me just give this guy his takeoff clearance. Air Canada 221 Vancouver, contact me once you're airborne. The wind's 190 at 10, clear for takeoff, runway 08 left.
Clear for takeoff, Air Canada. Clear for takeoff, runway 8 left. We'll contact you on this frequency, Air Canada 221.
Air Canada 102, you've left my airspace to the east. Edmonton's gone offline. Switch to the en route frequency. Surveillance service terminates.
Unicom, see you, Air Canada 102.
Let's see, where was I here? Dang it, I lost my train of thought. AQP. Yes, that's what I was talking about. AQP. So a lot more airlines are beginning to adopt this as a training model. So the idea behind AQP is data. It's data-driven training. So instead of just a regulatory list of prescribed items that you've got to cover every 6 months or every year in the sim, it's now every time you go in the sim, you're being constantly evaluated at everything, and it's not even that they're evaluating you in the idea of failing you or faulting you, but the idea is to gain overall insight into the training and skills overall of the pilot team, and look for oversight. So AQP, like literally every exercise you do in the sim will get a mark assigned to it. You won't find out all these marks, and a lot of them are not necessarily regulatory in nature, but it's just like whether these people can do do these things, and they're assigned sort of numerical values, and then all the data is brought together and trended together. And so, what are the weak spots? And then the next training cycle will be trained based on the weak points. So the idea of AQP is that they're gathering tons and tons of data, and they're marking everything you're doing, but they're not evaluating you. They're evaluating the training system. So if you can't do it, and this guy can't do it, and the next guy can't do it, and that other guy can't do it, there's something wrong with the training system. It's not something wrong with the pilots. It's something wrong with the training system. We're not going through these things quick enough. we're not spending enough time on particular items, and they'll also take information from the safety reports. So the safety management system, what kind of reports, what kind of trends are we seeing? Are we seeing more and more runway incursions? Okay, then we're going to have to do some education about runway incursions, maybe do some situations. It's AQP and ICAO initiative. I'm not sure if it's an ICAO initiative. It's like a world. It is a worldwide standard. It's a recognized kind of training system. I don't know if it's necessarily ICAO based, but a lot of airlines are kind of switching to it from their more prescribed list-based training
Vancouver
to
Centre, Air Canada 221, passing flight level 2000.
Air Canada 221 Vancouver identified climb 16,000 at 3,000 direct day ped on course.
Climb flight level 160, directed David. Air Canada 221.
AQP, Advanced Qualification Program. That's what AQP stands for. Yeah, and so a lot of it is very data driven, and it's not just the training. The training data is huge, and that's because it's a huge chance for them to sit there with an observer and just gather information about what's happening, objectively. But they'll also do audits on the line where they'll sit and watch on the line, and they won't say anything to you. They're not really grading you as a pilot and your performance of your duties in that way. It's that they're grading the training system. Do you know how to do all these things? What are your weak areas? What are some areas that we see that things are getting missed? And it's the idea is to then the training system evolves. So the next training cycle, the next 6 or 12 month training cycle, is then going to focus on these areas that are weak areas. Uh, so that's kind of the future of sort of where a lot of the airlines are going. And I think in the long run it's going to be positive because it creates more realistic situations. It shifts the training over time because previously, like, and I will say that I won't say I fell victim to this, but I definitely felt this trend and I saw this trend, and where the first time I ever did a check ride at an airline, it was a nerve-wracking experience. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to pass. I'm going to fail for sure. I'm gonna be fired, and that's the end of it. And then the first couple is like, okay, and then each one kind of gets a little bit easier, and then by about the fourth or fifth one, you're like, okay, it's the same thing we do every single time. We're gonna set up the airplane.
Vancouver Centre. Good day, Emirates 216 level 280, and as reported, currently heading 350.
Emirates 216 Vancouver, hello, squawk ident, please.
Squawk ident, Emirates 216.
Emirates 216 Heavy, thank you very much. Identified, flight level 280. Yeah, yeah, so what I noticed in myself too is that I knew exactly what was going to happen. We're going to push back from the gate. We're going to go taxi to the runway. It's going to be low visibility, and one of two things is going to happen. One of three things is going to happen when we get to the runway and do a takeoff. We're going to either have to reject the takeoff before V1. We're going to have an engine failure after V1, or we're going to just do a normal takeoff. One of those three things is going to happen. I know it 100%. And then as you're going through the sim session, you start checking these things off. Well, we did an engine failure after V1, and we did a normal takeoff. So the last time we do a takeoff, it's going to be the rejected takeoff. So you're playing the game in your head more than you even realize. You're just checking off the boxes. So you're not you're practicing the skills, but you're not necessarily learning a whole lot. Air Canada 221 climb, flight level 270.
Flight level 270, Air Canada 221.
So the whole idea of AQP is that the training does shift over time. It's not the same stuff all the time, but things that are particularly weak areas, there will be things that sort of still need to be done to meet the regulatory requirements, but there's a lot more flexibility within the system. Because the other thing about AQP too is when airlines start to do AQP, they start to put pilots back in the sim more often. Instead of being every 6 months, which is the traditional regulatory requirement, they tend to start going on a bit of a more frequent basis where you're starting to talk about every 4 months. So now 3 times a year instead of twice a year, you're going to the sim. And one of those times is not required by the regulations. So one of them is literally, it's just training. And you can get more out of it because it's just training. Before, like, there was so much effort in reading all those, checking all those boxes, making sure everything was done. You get 2 days of training. You get the training day, and you get the evaluation day, the recurrent ride day. And the training day, you kind of throw some extra unusual stuff in there, some unusual emergencies, and then the evaluation day was a given formula. You have to do X, Y, and Z. We don't know which order.
Vancouver Centre, Delta 854 with you, approximately 3-5 miles west of the Victoria VOR. Flight level 335, climbing 340. Good evening.
Even this is still loud. Delta 854, Vancouver Centre, good evening. Squawk code 0711.
0711, Delta 854.
Just as I was looking it up here too. AQP is actually an FAA program initially. So the FAA kind of came up with the idea, or it was proposed through the FAA. But it's an alternative scheme. It's an alternative scheme that airlines can use as an alternative to the standard regulatory requirements to maintain crew currency. So if you implement this program instead of you can use it instead of the normal regulatory requirements. And different countries are also adopting it as a great way to kind of improve training overall. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I really do. Like, I think it's a good program. I think it does a lot of great things. It really kind of gets pilots out of their comfort zone and into not necessarily out of their comfort zone, but into stuff that they're just not normally dealing with. I remember a chief pilot told me, like, one of the biggest wastes of money that we do is the ride every 12 months or every 6 months. Every 6 months we got to put you in the sim for 4 hours and you got to go do a recurrent ride. And he said it's the biggest waste of money because 98% of the pilots pass it every single time because it's the same stuff over and over again. They said we can spend that money a lot better. So what the original first step was that they did the loft training, which is instead of doing a ride, the loft training could replace a ride. So every 12 months you do a ride on one of your days, but on the 6 month interval, instead of doing a training day and another ride where it's exactly the same as it was 6 months ago, you do a training day, but then you do a loft day, which is a line-oriented flight training, which is just you go out and you do a flight and some weird scenario happens and you practice the whole scenario instead of just like the individual exercises. You're like, okay, so you take off, you hit a bird, you start leaking fuel out of one wing. What do you do now? And so all sorts of kind of implications. It's loft is very much where the ride is very much about the exercises, about the technical proficiency. Yes, you can do this. You know how to shut down an engine. You know how to fly an approach, that sort of thing. Loft is very much about the CRM aspect of training. So airlines were huge on this as they started to get introduced as an alternative to doing a ride. Instead of spending a day just doing the same stuff you did last year and the year before, now we're spending a day where the scenarios change from year to year. They script different scenarios, things that have happened, things that they know are weak points. Air Canada 221, continue climb, flight level 370.
Clear to 370, Air Canada 221.
And Delta 854, I can't remember if I did say it, but you are identified at flight level 340.
Copy that, 854.
Yeah, so the airlines were on that because it's like we're spending all this money on training anyways. Why don't we get more benefit for our money anyways, rather than just meeting the minimum regulatory requirements? Let's make our pilots better pilots. So everyone's kind of huge on this. Yeah, so again, referring to Mentor Pilot's content as a training captain, he does seem to work to a very positive ethos, helping to build people up. Yeah, and that's important. There's. I was thinking about this just the other day too. It's like, there are days where I doubt myself as a pilot. Have I read as much as I possibly can? Do I know enough information to really get myself by and know everything? And it's possible to know everything. Do I know enough to get by and be able to safely operate? And do I know where to look up the remainder of the information that I might need from day to day? It's being a pilot can be a very stressful career in a lot of ways, and sometimes even just that self-doubt of have I learned everything well enough? Do I know this material well enough? It can be very, very troubling. The trouble is you have to be very confident as a pilot, especially as a captain. You have to be confident in yourself. The key is that confidence can't be a false confidence either. You've got to be confident in yourself, and it's got to be based in some level of reality. You've got to know that you're good at your job, that you're good at what you do, that you're capable of doing it. You don't want to go into every day doubting that you know how to do the job. It's not going to go well. you know, and so you'd like to think that yes, I am good at what I do. Am I the best? Absolutely not. I don't think I'm the best by any means. But am I good? Do I do my personal best every single day? I'd like to think I do. There are days where sometimes I'm tired. I know, and I'm not performing at my peak, and I hate those days. But and there's days where you have that self doubt. I'm like, am I really good enough to do this? Like you start to see things get a little bit extreme, and you're like, am I really good? You get those moments of self doubt, but you can't let them dwell in your mind too long. You just got to go keep doing what you're doing until the end. It just yeah, exactly. Imposter syndrome. I get it every once in a while. I get a couple days where I just think to myself, have I really learned enough? And because sometimes you'll have something like where you'll read something, you'll be like, wow, I never read that closely enough, or I can't believe I've forgotten that. I remember reading it and I've forgotten that. And you get into that imposter syndrome where you think that you're not good enough, that you're one day you're going to be found out. I used to suffer from that badly when I was new, and I really didn't know very much about the industry and about the job, and I really had that after 10 15 years in the business. Okay, you start to feel a little bit more confident, but even then there's days that the best what am I trying to say? The best cure for imposter syndrome is studying a little bit more and being confident. If there's anything that you question that you know well enough, go and read it again. Read it a couple times again to make sure you really truly do know it. We just had a big SOP change, which wasn't that big, but we had an SOP change just last week, and it just this week actually, and it wasn't huge, but there was enough big changes that everyone's sort of like struggling through it, and we're muddling trying to get by, and we're like we know the job, we know what we're supposed to do. Most of it's just changing what we're talking about. But still, we're also all, I won't say perfectionists, but we do strive to do the best we can all the time. At least I think most of us do. I think there's probably exceptions to that, but most of us try to strive to do the best we can. Um, yeah. The other question you had up there, planes are not engineered from the view of really unusual things that can happen. Yeah, and again, there's a modicum of practicality to that. Like there are things that could happen, but the circumstances are so unlikely that is it worth talking about
Emirates
them?
216, request leaving cockpit for 5 minutes.
Emirates 216, that's approved. Let me know when you're back.
Emirates 216, welcome.
Yeah, there's what am I trying to say here? There's a limitation to how much failure you can potentially see happening in an airplane, how much you can potentially perceive, and the likelihood of failure. There are things that probably the aircraft manufacturers look at and just say, we think the odds of this are so unlikely that we are not going to count it as a possibility of this ever happening. And typical example is the triple hydraulic failure in most aircraft. In most airliners use triple hydraulic system redundancy. The odds of one system failing are small. They're definitely not insignificant, but they're small. Just yesterday, I taxied past an airplane that had a hydraulic failure, was coming back to the gate, and they'd had a hydraulic failure and landed with one hydraulic system failed. So it happens from time to time. There are hydraulic failures from time to time. Now, the odds of two hydraulic failures happening simultaneously, it's possible. It's very possible, but it's highly, highly unlikely. I don't even want to try to give odds because I don't know. I'm not an aerodynamic engineer. Yeah, I'm not an aeronautical engineer. I don't know what the kind of odds, but the odds that they're looking at are very small. And there's, as a result, there is a third system in there. And then you look at the possibility, the odds of a triple hydraulic failure happening, and it's almost unheard of. Uh, yeah, it's almost unheard of. And the couple of times that it has happened are such outlandish edge cases. The two that I think of are the Sioux City United, what was it, 202, I think, or something like that. The one that sort of crash landed in Sioux Falls, Sioux City. Uh, That one had the you know the tail mounted engine had an uncontained failure that severed not one, not two, but three different hydraulic lines. So three different hydraulic systems. Which the odds of that happening, there's three completely independent systems. The odds of you having a failure that affects all three of them are so insignificant I think it was an MD-11, or was it 727? Anyways, the manufacturer did not think it was possible. Likewise, Airbus does not think it's possible to have a triple hydraulic failure. It's not that they don't think it's possible; it's that they think that the odds are so small that there's no published procedure for it. So then you get a situation where the DHL was A300 or A330 that departed Baghdad and was shot by a surface-to-air missile. I mean, you can't plan your life on that sort of thing. That the odds of that happening to any one particular aircraft pretty small. If you're in a war zone, it's possible. Um, and they managed to actually land it on the runway. The airplane went sideways off the end of the runway after touchdown, but they landed and kept the airplane, right side up in the dirt, but right side up, and they got out safely. It's again, it's a question of statistics. Like they just don't think that it's not that it's not that they think it's impossible. It's that the odds are so insignificant that there's not worth. And what are you going to do? You're going to put in a fourth redundant hydraulic system or a fifth one. I mean, the 747 they put in four hydraulic systems. I don't think they've ever had a quadruple hydraulics failure that I'm aware of.
Emirates 216 respect.
Emirates 216, Roger. Um, could it happen? It's possible. Anything is possible in this world. The likelihood of it happening, and whether we need to, maybe they should have put five hydraulic systems in the 747 or six. So there are situations that are far enough out of the realm of possibility that the manufacturers, if they do think about it, they just say we really don't see this as being at all likely in the lifetime of the operation of this aircraft, and therefore we're not going to prepare a procedure for it. Whether that's a good attitude or not. I mean, the other thing too is that like you could come up with every possible procedure, every possibility, and try and write a procedure for it. But what happens when two of them are mixed together as well? I mean, there's got to be some ability to apply uh, apply some logic and common sense to it. So what happens if you get two simultaneous failures that they had not anticipated? So you get a triple hydraulic failure and you get a generator failure at the same time, or something like that, or a dual hydraulic failure and a generator or a flight control failure simultaneously. And again, the odds are so insignificant. Do we write another procedure just for that? All of a sudden your quick reference handbook is going to be a mile thick with potential. Well, we could have this, or we could have this, or we could have this, and there's literally thousands of possible procedures in there. So there comes a point where it's also just a question of practicality. How many procedures can we really put in the book before the book gets so thick that nobody can ever even find the procedure they need when they need it? Look at the MEL binders of all the possibilities of different failures. We still have the MEL binders in our aircraft as a backup, just in case we don't have access to the EFB. And it's two binders, and each of them is like a 4-inch binder. All right, if I have an appetite for more, I don't know if you've covered the subject of AI in the cockpit and a direction of travel towards a single pilot or even pilotless operation in the future. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I tend to think away from that. And it probably is a selfish. It is probably a selfish, kind of motivation, but I want to preserve my own career. But I think that the better replacement for the idea of coming up with every possible conceivable failure and trying to write a procedure for all of them. I think the best way to overcome that and say, what do we do when we have a failure that's unplanned, is we put two highly trained pilots in the flight deck, and two of them, not just one, because one is not going to be as good as two. Two pilots working together are always better than the sum of the two individuals separately, because they can talk to each other, have discussions, evolve their ideas based on what other people perceive. Yeah, I see why the airlines want to go that way. The airlines are all saying, oh, we're all poor and there's a pilot shortage going on. Well, there's a reason why there's a pilot shortage going on, and it's because the airlines have been cutting pilot pay for years and years and years. And so now there's a pilot shortage. So now we're going to try and go single pilot airliners. And there's any number of reasons, any number of problems with it. The first and foremost to me is besides the fact that like you don't have the redundancy anymore, because yeah, medical issues don't happen very often, but there is a chance it will happen. And if you only have one pilot in the flight deck, now you've got very little backup, uh, for that one pilot that's in the flight deck. Yeah, but I think the other end of it too is just uh, the physiological limitations of being one person alone doing a job with no interaction with anybody else, and that I think is the bigger stumbling block. Technologically, I think we could do it. Although, having seen the way even the most modern airliners fly, they don't fly perfectly by any means. If you try to fly them without crew input, without crew monitoring, they don't do well. They'll get you there, but they're really not going to do an efficient job. They're going to make a lot of silly mistakes. You really kind of need a pilot sitting there kind of babysitting the airplane to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to at the right times. Um, but I think the physiological limits and the social limits are the bigger limits. You talk about overseas flying, you talk about even just long haul flying, daily long haul flying. It's a long time to sit in a room that's quiet. It's got this nice kind of gentle background hum. It's warm, some vibration going on. There's not a lot of tasks to do during cruise. There's a lot to be said for um, there's a lot to be said for having somebody to talk to. As stupid as it is, as stupid as that kind of is as a reason, I think that's the number one reason why we need to have two pilots in the flight deck is it keeps people engaged. I think about how I had a flight not too long ago where I didn't particularly get along with the person I was flying with, and that's fine. We got our job done safely. We were able, we worked through everything and it was fine. But the en route portion was so completely understimulating. It was unbelievable. I was just bored out of my skull, uh, and tired and sleepy as a result because there was just nothing going on to keep me engaged. There's only so much that monitoring the airplane will keep you engaged, but having somebody in the flight deck to talk to and chat with and just kind of keep you awake and kind of keep an eye on them. And if you see the guy doing this next to you, maybe start a conversation. Um, I think that's a huge reason to keep two pilots in the flight deck. I think that's that physiological limit of um, of yeah of just trying to keep people engaged. And then the other end of the spectrum, when things go wrong, um, being able to adequately
Vancouver Centre,
divide
very
workload.
good afternoon to you. Air Canada 249 with you, flight level 380.
Air Canada 249, good afternoon, squawk code 0716.
0716, Air Canada 249.
Yeah, that idea, just when things do go wrong, being able to divide the workload. I think of all the number of times I've had a bad day in the sim, and not necessarily a bad day, but when you've been in the sim and you're doing a lot of a lot of emergencies, things are going wrong, that sort of thing. The amount of workload is phenomenal sometimes when you have an emergency situation. It can go from like a very understimulating and almost nothing's happening and I'm really doing very little work to you're doing so much work that one person could never hope to get through it all. Even two people have a hard time getting through it. Air Canada 249 identified flight level 380. So the idea of taking away that backup of that second person that you can also offload your workload onto, I really I have a lot of issues with it. Having seen the practicality of how flight decks operate, I have not yet seen an airplane that is even close to being sufficiently automated and able to fly single pilot. I have not seen an airliner that is even close from an automation perspective or anything to be able to operate single pilot. And this idea of having, well, we're just going to have a dispatcher who's going to monitor, he's going to be the dispatcher on 10 different flights. And he's going to be the co-pilot on 10 different flights. Again, it for those physiological reasons, trying to keep the guy awake, that's not going to help at all. You can't have one guy having conversations in 10 different flight decks. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I think I just I think the airlines are going to push really hard for it because they're all claiming to be pilot poor now because for years they pushed the wages down to the point where nobody wants to do it anymore, and then they shrug their shoulders and say, well, nobody wants to do it anymore. Well, yeah, because you've made it such an unappealing career that it's no wonder nobody wants to do it anymore. You start making it an appealing career again by either making the work conditions better or the salaries better or both. People will start doing it again. And the U.S. is a perfect example. All of a sudden, people are applying to flight schools in droves because they've seen how much people can suddenly make. But I think, yeah, technologically, I think it's possible. The other thing too is that the idea that somebody outside your aircraft has the ability to fly your aircraft remotely. There's a whole host of cybersecurity, terrorism type issues coming from that. It's one thing to try and take over an airplane being on it and in position, and it, trying to hijack an aircraft from within the aircraft itself. Imagine if foreign powers could try and remotely hack your aircraft. I think again the technology exists, but I would not want to fly in an airplane that is remotely controllable because as we've demonstrated time and time and time again on the internet that most systems are built by humans and humans will make mistakes in the design of these security systems for these systems uh, and what happens when someone remotely takes over the airplane and you don't even know who it is. It could be anybody worldwide because the internet allows anybody to get instant access. Like it just that blows me away. There's so many issues we have. Yeah, the idea of a remotely controllable aircraft just blows me away. It's technically we could do it. I think technically we could totally do it if we put our minds to it. But the security issues that are involved with that, it just I can't even begin to think about the possibilities of the first hijacking, where the first remote work hijacking that happens. It just that kind of thing blows my mind. I'd much rather have two pilots in the flight deck able to fly that aircraft. And that's from a pilot's perspective, that's from a career perspective, and also just from a passenger perspective. I'd rather have people in the flight deck that know what they're doing and are able to fly that airplane. Because like you said, when things go wrong, and things sometimes will go wrong in aviation, when things go so completely wrong that you're in completely uncharted territory where no designer has contemplated the possibility of this situation you're in right now, you want some people with some brain cells trying to come up with a solution. Again, predator drones. Yeah, we have predator drones that can fly themselves, but again, there's no lives at stake in the drone. Uh, that to me is a very different story than putting people on
And
an airplane.
Vancouver Centre, this is Charlie Lima Charlie. We are currently at Kelowna looking to pick up our IFR. We have golf.
Charlie Lima Charlie, Vancouver Centre. Hello. Let's see here. You're cleared to your destination via the Kelowna 8 departure and your flight plan route. Departure runway is 16 and squawk 0775.
Alright, cleared our destination and departed via the Kelowna 8 and via flight plan route. We'll be taking off 16 and are squawking 0775 for Charlie Lima Charlie.
Charlie Lima Charlie, that readback is all correct. The information in Kelowna is golf. The wind's been kind of light and variable all over the map. Right now they're out of the south. Call me ready for taxi.
And we have golf and we'll call you for taxi, Charlie Lima Charlie.
Not that the Predator drones are exactly cheap, but they are disposable, if you will. Nobody wants a disposable passenger aircraft where you just give up and just say, it didn't work so well. Yeah, the idea of remotely controlled aircraft is that frightens the heck out of me. Yeah, I find it amusing, the idea. Yeah, we reached the point of autonomous passenger flights now for about 10 years. Well, it's funny because the autonomous self-driving car has always been about 2 years away for about the past 10 years. Oh yeah, we're just about to do it. It's like and driving is a very dynamic environment too. Driving is another very typical example of a very dynamic environment. We don't even realize how dynamic the environment is. It's because it seems because we kind of we do a lot of heuristics internally as humans. We very much we kind of uh, take driving, especially when something unusual is happening, we go back to what we do know, sort of bring it back to what we do know. So yeah, we're driving down the road between the two lines. As long as I'm between the two lines, I'm okay. It's not the same two lines I was on yesterday, but I can kind of figure it out. And oh, the line's turned orange, or this line disappeared on the right, but the left is still there. Okay, well, I'll just sort of keep the normal distance from the left. Like we do so much kind of adaptation, heuristics as we're going without even thinking about it as humans when we're driving. And then we've tried to translate into self-driving cars, and it's just like again, like the level of the dynamic environment. And Air Canada 249 Vancouver, I see you in descent. Confirm you're still at 380.
Yeah, we're just having our autopilot issues. We'll be flight level 380.
Roger. Even then,
And Vancouver Centre, Charlie Lima Charlie is ready for taxi.
even driving down the motorway, it's still like the dynamics. I've never had the same drive to work twice. Not even close. Charlie Lima Charlie, stand by. Who's this guy and why is he on the runway threshold there? Charlie Lima Charlie, Kelowna information is golf. The altimeter is 2979er, runway 16. Just hold your position for now. I've got an airplane who just showed up there on the threshold of the runway. Not sure what he's doing. Let me just see what he's doing first before I get you out there.
Yeah, yeah, we see him out there. Clear. We'll hold short for Charlie Lima Charlie.
Yeah, just give me a minute and we'll see if I can get a hold of him and see what he's doing. If he starts rolling down the road, I'm going to get pissed. I've been sitting here waiting for airplanes for all this time, and then nobody bothers to show up, and nobody bothers to talk to me when they do show up online. Kelowna to Victoria. And Charlie Lima Charlie is not responding right now. I'm not sure what his plan is. Do you want to head down to Bravo, maybe do an intersection departure from Bravo while we see what he's going to do?
Affirm, yeah, we can depart 16 via Bravo for Charlie Lima Charlie.
And Charlie Lima Charlie, that'll give you about 4,000 feet remaining. Just confirm that's sufficient.
That is sufficient for Charlie Lima Charlie.
Charlie Lima Charlie, Roger, taxi Delta Bravo, hold short 16, and let's just see what this guy does here.
All right, taxi Delta Bravo, hold short at 16, Charlie Lima Charlie.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that 100%. That the main reason for accidents on the highway is human error. There's no such thing. I like the idea. There's no such thing as car accidents. There's car crashes. Most of the time, things that happen are because people are not driving intelligently, which is fine. Like, and I get that. And I get that automation can probably get away with that, but the environment that we've designed for the automobile right now is definitely too dynamic. There's too many variables. There's not enough guidance upon it to really kind of be able to deal with that. And yeah, I just the processing power required to kind of handle a lot of this stuff. People doing stupid things, but even the people, not just the random occasional events, the flying truck tires that happened once upon a time. Kids throwing stones off an overpass. How does the car deal with that? Like, at least if you got again, you've got a driver with some awareness that can probably react perhaps a little more appropriately to something being thrown off an overpass than an automated self-driving system. Now, again, I'm not trying to necessarily knock the self-automated systems as well, but I just find it hilarious how quickly we have underestimated how complicated this task is, just because most people can do it. Even in North America, this guy's rolling. Send him 3 contact me's on the runway. Well, I guess that answers that question of what he's doing. Air Canada 249 Vancouver. Information in Vancouver is Foxtrot runway 08 left for arrival. When ready to send, flight level 240.
Okay, when ready to send flight level 240 for runway 24 Air Canada 249.
And Charlie Lima Charlie looks like he just took off and is doing whatever he wants. So line up runway 16 at Bravo. I'll get you airborne momentarily.
And we're lining up 16, and yeah, we see him. It looks like he's about to crash into the mountain or so. Oh, he's coming back.
At least you can see what he's doing.
Yeah, it's nice about the updates to that, and it looks pretty smooth.
All right, I don't know what he's doing, so I'm going to get you out of his way. Charlie Lima Charlie, contact me once you're airborne. The Kelowna winds show in light and variable out of the south. Clear for takeoff, runway 16 from Bravo.
Clear for takeoff, 16. We'll call in the air, Charlie Lima Charlie.
Emirates 216 Heavy, Vancouver. You're about to leave my airspace to the northeast. The Edmonton Centre is not online. Switch to the on-route frequency. Surveillance service terminates.
216, change to configuration approved. Thank you, and nice evening. Bye.
Take care. Yeah, even in North America, like everything, we've got such supposedly standards on our highways, but everything's different. And then the amount of construction that goes on in my mind too, like that kind of blows my mind too. And then you get snow on the highway, you get rain, you get all these dynamic things, and people try to sort of do different things to make the boat the safest thing they can with it. Yeah, it just. I don't even know where to go with it sometimes. There's so much to kind of think about.
And Vancouver Center, this is Charlie Lima Charlie with you, 2,700.
Charlie Lima Charlie, Vancouver, thanks. Identified, continue climb 8,000.
Continue climb 8,000, Charlie Lima Charlie.
Yeah, regular small scale, fully autonomous flight service in 10 years. It's not unreasonable. There's certainly a lot of companies that's pushing it, but the funny thing is, like, there are a lot of companies that have been pushing it for the last 25 years. So I've seen various versions of this on and off for 25, 30 years now. Air taxis that are really kind of like little mini taxis that are just multiple propellers and whatnot. So vertical takeoff and landing. I've been watching people sell this for 25 years now. The technology is getting stronger, but there's still so much to kind of overcome and so many possibilities. I don't know. I have a hard time dealing with it. I mean, you look at how poorly we can handle the technology we have already, and how little we can do with the technology we have already, and that's why I have issues with it. Like I said, like the self-driving cars are still not working the way they're supposed to, not even close. And he's back at the threshold of the runway. Stop spawning on my runway. Okay, this is. Okay, I don't know who this guy is, what he's doing, but he is. He's about to get a visit from a supervisor. Let's see here. I'm trying to figure out what altitude I can give this guy during his en route portion here, because I don't think I have. Oh, maybe I do. Oh, jeez. No. And Charlie Lima Charlie Vancouver, climb a 9,000. I'm going to give you 9,000 for the final to get you over to Douglas Lake there.
Climb to 9,000 for Charlie Lima Charlie.
Air Canada 221 Vancouver, you're about to leave my airspace to the east. The Edmonton Center's not online. Switch to the honored frequency. Surveillance service terminates, and have a good night.
Switching Unicom, Air Canada 221. Thanks again.
With regards to where we are at the moment technologically, you ain't seen nothing yet. Well, I'll change the next 10 to 20 years. Yeah, I do believe that. Like the pace of technological change has been crazy, but there are certain areas where you know the pace of technological change has not kept up with the pace of regulatory abilities to keep up with them. And it happens over and over again, and self-propelled, self-flying taxis are the perfect example of this. They've been on the drawing board for 25, 30 years. Every couple of years, some new guy comes along and says, "Oh, I've got the problem. Like I've got all these." Yeah, it, there's it's one thing to sort of write the technology for it, and if you're in the automation business, then you probably have a better sense of this. But certainly, a lot of people kind of overestimate. They're overambitious.
Vancouver Centre, Air Canada 222, like to request IFR clearance to Calgary as filed.
Air Canada 222 Vancouver, you're cleared to the Calgary Airport via the Vancouver 2 departure, radar vectors LNOD, flight plan route, depart runway 08 left, squawk 0725.
Alright, we're cleared to Calgary via the VATSIM 2 departure, flight plan route, expecting 08 left and squawk 0725, Air Canada 222.
Air Canada 222, thank you. The readback is correct information. Foxtrot in Vancouver, push and start at your discretion. Call me ready for taxi.
Alright, we'll grab Foxtrot and we'll give you a call when ready. Thanks.
Yeah. To me, yeah, it's a question of like we could technologically do a lot, but doing it while creating the level of safety and redundancy and fail safe that's required. That's where a lot of the automation falls down. It works great when all the systems work, but when something fails, it's the fail safe, it's the redundancy in the technology. That's usually the failing point.
Good afternoon, Air Canada 234 with Foxtrot, IFR to Edmonton.
Air Canada 234 Vancouver, good day. You're cleared to Edmonton via the Vancouver 2 departure, radar vectors VIDRI, flight plan route, depart runway 08 left, squawk code 0747.
Alright, cleared to Edmonton, Vancouver 2, squawk 0747, and can I get the runway change?
Air Canada 234, the only runway available today is 08 left. You can't depart 26 right for the flow.
According to the information system, 26 right's actually active right now, and we got max performance, so we're going to need the headwind.
And Air Canada 234, according to my information, 08 right is closed for paving for the next 2 months, so it's going to be 08 left.
All right, and we can't get 26 right.
Air Canada 234, you need the 26 right for performance, I guess.
We could use the headwind, yep.
Because it's been kind of back and forth. All right, I tell you what, Air Canada 234. Okay, you can amend your departure. Actually, let's do it this way, Air Canada 234. For now, we'll leave the clearance as it stands. Push and start at your discretion. When you start up, we'll check what the actual winds are at your startup and see which is favoring, because it's been kind of back and forth between east and west all day.
All right, sounds good. We'll set up for 08. We'll run the numbers here again, and we'll get back with you.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll check the numbers when you actually push back, and we'll get you the runway that gets you into the wind for that.
Air Canada 249, apologies. Just want to confirm our arrival runway once again.
Air Canada 249, runway 08 left for arrival.
08 left, 249. Thank you.
It's kind of switching around. Yeah. Malaysian A370, yeah. All right, let me just see this guy's doing here. One wind is showing 160 at 8, the other one's 220 at 5, so I'm kind of splitting the difference here the whole time. Did they switch in the real world? Because they were using. How do we lose Malaysian? You know, it's funny because like it's really not that unbelievable if you know how the whole system works. And the fact is, like, we kind of eh, we kind of have this idea that aircraft are, yeah, they did switch to an east. They did switch to a west flow. Why did they switch to a west flow? Okay. Because I'm kind of splitting the difference here. I got one that says 160 at 8. Okay. Yeah.
Air Canada 234.
Air Canada 234, go ahead.
Air Canada 234 is at stand 15. We're ready for force to start there, and we can accept 08 left.
All right, Air Canada 234, push approved. Let me know when you're ready to taxi. Just for your latest, the winds I've got 2 winds here. So the threshold of 8 left is showing 170 at 7 now. It was about 140 just a minute ago. The threshold of 26 right is 230 at 5. So I think you're probably right. We are going to have to switch. It looks like it has kind of started to favor that runway a little bit more. So plan on runway 26 right for departure, and we'll get you going here shortly.
All right, sounds good. We'll call for push and we'll plan for 26 right. Thanks, Air Canada 234.
And Air Canada 249, the winds have been kind of starting to shift a little bit more out of the west. Do you still want to come in for 8 left, or do you want to switch it up for 26 right? If you need time for extra time to descend, I can give you some vectors.
No, we're all good with 8 left, Air Canada 249.
Air Canada 249, roger. And Air Canada 222, Vancouver. We're going to try and run with it. All right, so let's put out information golf. So how do you lose a whole airplane? Well, at the end of the day, every day the airplanes got lost and they just got found again. We kind of live in this idea that, yeah, everybody's watching everything 24/7. That's not been the case for aviation. Every time an aircraft went out over the ocean, it was incommunicado, it was off radar. All they had was their position reports every 45 minutes to an hour as they crossed the Atlantic. And between that, you had no idea where the airplanes were. And most airplanes still are operating kind of in that zone where, unless they have direct contact with some kind of terrestrial navigation service or with some kind of radar site, we don't know where the airplane is. We honestly just do not know. They just disappear off the radar. Charlie, Lima, Charlie, Vancouver at 9,000, turn right direct Douglas Lake.
At 9,000 direct, turn direct to where, sorry, for Charlie, Lima, Charlie?
Charlie, Lima, Charlie at 9,000, just direct your destination.
All right, 9,000 will go direct to Douglas Lake for Charlie, Lima, Charlie.
Air Canada 249, Vancouver, continue descent 12,000. The Vancouver altimeter is 2995.
Okay, continue descent 12,000, Air Canada 249.
Yeah, the only way to track, there was no way to track an airplane out of the ocean. The only information you had about airplanes over the ocean was the position reports they called in. That's been the way it has been for the last 50, 60 years. The only separation you get over the ocean is the longitudinal separation, where as long as you're flying one speed and I'm flying the same speed, we're at the same altitude, and you and I enter the airspace 10 minutes behind you, then I'm going to remain 10 minutes behind you the whole time. And that was it. And if as you pass each waypoint, if the time shifted and you were getting too close together, you were only 9 minutes apart, then you'd slow the airplane behind down a little bit. That was it. That there was no radar. Nobody, you didn't know where the airplanes were except to hear them calling you, and then you have a computer system as well, like that would predict where they are and said they should be here, but we did not physically know where they were. We just never did. We kind of take it for granted that we just have radar coverage everywhere. It's really not the case. North America, especially, and Europe, we take for granted that there's radar coverage everywhere. It's really not the case worldwide. There's a large swaths of the world that do not have any radar coverage. The oceans don't have any radar coverage. So, and large swaths of the world, even certainly in Africa, in parts of Asia, South America, huge swaths of the world don't have any radar coverage, and even in North America, like we don't have good radar coverage up north in the northern parts of Canada. Even Edmonton, a large portion of the Edmonton Centre was actually procedural separation for a long time, and it's only with the recent ADSB innovations that Edmonton got away from procedural separation. So there's a huge swath of the world that are not on radar. So yeah, the aircraft disappeared off the radar and never sent any reports about where it was, so we didn't know where it was. It turned somewhere it wasn't supposed to. Nobody knew where it went. And a lot of airplanes still are very old, like not very old, but like a lot of airplanes out there still flying are 20, 30 years old. Way predate the idea of ADSB. ADSB has kind of become mandatory in certain airspaces now in the US and Canada, but parts of Europe. But there's lots of places in the world where you don't need it, where you can get by without it. And so these older airplanes that don't have it and haven't been retrofitted, they still fly out across the Atlantic, and every day we lose track of them and we find them again when they come back to the other side. It blows people's mind because everyone assumes that they're just being tracked 24/7, and they are being tracked in the sense that we know where they should be based on their position reports. So if they fail to make a position report, we know the last position that they did positively report at. That's where the search starts. The Air France flight that was it 447 that crashed into the Atlantic on their way from Brazil over to Paris. Nobody knew exactly where they were at the time. They knew roughly where they should be, and then they didn't check in again. And it takes a little while before anyone really believes that they're missing. It could just be a comm failure if they don't check in. So yeah, it is kind of it blows your mind to think about that. No, everyone assumes that it's just that planes are being tracked, and now slowly, it's being introduced. But for years and years, this was never an issue. Malaysian was the first example of something. It just so completely out there that the designers didn't even consider it. Let's see this guy here. Where's my AMA? That's the one I'm looking for here. And Charlie Lima Charlie, as you head northbound there, 9,000 is going to be the lowest I can give you just due to the terrain. Let me know if you do get the field in sight or you just want to cancel.
We can cancel IFR for Charlie Lima Charlie.
All right, Charlie Lima Charlie, IFR cancellation is received. And do you want to keep the alerting services till you land or cancel those as well?
We can continue with that flight following if that's what you're asking for, Charlie Charlie.
Okay, Charlie Lima Charlie, yeah, that's fine. You can continue with the flight following. The latest Kelowna altimeter is still 2978, and just report down and clear with me.
We'll call you down and clear for Charlie Lima Charlie, thanks.
And what's our Canada 249 doing here? If he's going for 8 left, he should be...
Center Air Canada 234 is 6 Lima, ready for taxi.
Air Canada 234, Vancouver, runway 26 right. Information is Golf, altimeter 29905. Taxi Juliet, Mike Niner.
All right, Juliet, Mike Niner, Air Canada 234.
Yeah, I think the situation needs to change. Satellite comms can easily facilitate the plane pinging its position regularly. It absolutely could. It's something that's technologically been very possible for a long time, but it's just something that nobody really looked at and said, we need to do it. This medevac guy's still here, huh? And there are airlines that have done it that did have it before, but it was never something that was mandatory that everyone had to do it. It's kind of nice to know where your airplanes are. So certain airlines jumped on the bandwagon and have had some sort of tracking system for a while, but it's not something that was regulatorily required. It was just something that, well, if we want to know exactly where airplanes are as they're en route and maybe have communication with them, we'll install some satcoms. It's great, but a lot of airlines are cheaper and decided that they did not need that. And then Air Canada 249, I'm not sure what he's doing because he's not on the Canuck arrival. And Air Canada 249 Vancouver. Looks like you're off the arrival there. What point are you going to?
We are on Cancun 5 arrival. Air Canada 249.
Air Canada 249. I can see the Canuck arrival. You're definitely not on it. What point are you direct to? Because you should be on your way to Lanny. Or Lane, or whatever you want to call it.
Stand by. We're direct boot. Yeah, stand by 249.
I will not be a jerk controller now. I think I am starting to be. At least I got something to talk about. Thank you so much, Hayden, for stimulating my brain at least, because I was just about ready to fall asleep there. I was ready to bail about a half an hour ago, but I'm sticking with it now that you've given me some good stuff to talk about. Yeah, it was definitely possible to ping aircraft for aircraft to send updates to satellite before. It was definitely not impossible. It's just something that nobody really did. Nobody really perceived much of a need for it. Some airlines did. Some airlines really wanted to know exactly where their airplane were and have really good accurate times, en route. But yeah, it wasn't something that was necessary. Every day, hundreds upon hundreds of aircraft fly out of radar coverage in North America, cross the ocean for.
Okay, Air Canada 249. Would you like us direct to the mills now?
Air Canada 249. You can go direct Aplex and descend 7,000.
Okay, direct Aplex down to 7,000. Sorry about that. Air Canada 249.
All right, no problem. Yeah. Fly for 3 or 4 hours across the Atlantic and pop out the other side onto radar coverage again, and it happened like clockwork. And sometimes people will be a little bit behind or whatever, but the assumption was that if anything bad happened, that people would communicate about it. So yeah, it's just Malaysian was, again, it was one of those such an edge case, such a completely out there case that you wouldn't even think it could happen. The transponders turned off and the aircraft just starts flying away from its intended route, not talking to anybody, and disappears off radar coverage. And that's it. That's the last we ever knew of it. We don't know where it is. It probably crashed somewhere in the ocean. Where, who knows? Half the ocean's your oyster. When you've got that much fuel on board, you've got a pretty big range of action. You could have crashed before you ran out of fuel. You could have run right to the edge of your range. It starts to get to be a pretty big circle. Talk about the needle in the haystack. It's out there somewhere, but just the question of actually finding. Most of the time we were able to find pretty reliably where something crashed because we usually know where the reports were. The other thing too is that the ELT will start dragging you in. You'll hear the ELT, pinging the satellites. So the fact the ELT did not go off and trigger the satellites must indicate that probably it crashed in pretty deep water, and before the ELT ever had a chance to go off, it was under so much water that the satellites could never pick it up. Kind of those ideal perfect circumstances. Kind of it's madness where Google knows where we are. But the key thing is that Google has these tracking devices. We all have these tracking devices in our pockets. So no wonder Google knows where you are every minute of every day. But again, as long as you're within cell coverage, you go out in the middle of some of these wild parks away from cell coverage. Like, part of it is because we live in these areas where we have these network coverages, but you go outside these areas, in between these areas where there is no network coverage, you go into some of the more wild spaces. Even in America, you go middle of Alaska somewhere, way in the middle of the mountains somewhere in Alaska. Google's not going to know where you are. It doesn't matter how much you have this thing because there's no cell towers to pass that information along. So same basic idea. We're just so used to the areas that we travel in on a daily basis having this coverage, this ability to transmit this information. Air Canada 249 to send 5,000.
Down to 5,000. Air Canada 249.
Air Canada 222 Vancouver.
And Center Air Canada 222, go ahead.
Air Canada 222, we're changing runways to amend your departure instructions. 26 right on the Vancouver 2 balance unchanged.
All right, yeah, we figured as much listening to transmission, so we're already set up for 23 right. And yeah, actually, we're ready to taxi. And I got the taxi instructions here, Air Canada 222.
All right, Air Canada 222, runway 26 right, information is Golf, altimeter 29905. Taxi Juliet Mike, and hold short of Mike 7.
Juliet Mike, hold short, Mike 7, Air Canada 222.
So I'm going to get the one departure out there before I turn this guy back inbound. When I'm the boss, planes will have satellite-based transponders. The problem won't exist anymore. Well, that's just it. Now they're basically mandating that everyone has to have some sort of a satellite tracking system, so we do know where the planes are at all times. Yeah. But again, that was an unusual case too, because the transponder went off as well. Which so something happened, something weird happened with that. Something, whether it was a hijacking or mental illness or who knows, something weird happened with that. Air Canada 234 Vancouver. Contact me once you're airborne. The wind's 260 at 8. Clear for takeoff. Runway 26 right. They really are solidly out of the west now.
Clear for takeoff 26 right, Air Canada 234.
Air Canada 249, descend 3000.
Descend 3000, Air Canada 249.
Because he's too high, it's actually going to work out. If he had been lower, I would have tried to sneak him in, but he's actually way too high, so it's fine. It's going to work out. One thing is certain, life beyond death and taxes, and that is extremely unlikely scenarios will happen. It's just a matter of time. We need to design in systems and procedures to deal with it. Yeah, well, that's true. You need to design for the edge cases. That's one of the biggest problems with the technological world we live in. Is like software developers are so used to kind of like, well, we think about some of the edge cases, and the ones that we think are really extreme, well, we'll just let it break the system. And in a lot of cases, that's fine. In a lot of the commercial applications, that's if something goes offline, especially like Facebook goes offline for half an hour, 2 hours because somebody didn't program it very well, the world does not end. People don't necessarily die because Facebook is down for an hour or two. But when you start to talk about things where you're talking about transportation vehicles, people can die if you program it incorrectly. The amount of redundancy and reliability you need to have goes up by an immense factor. And then so many software developers are kind of used to this mentality of, well, if it breaks, it's fine, I'll just reprogram it. But yeah, just not the case. Little suicide ops. Yeah, safety critical systems. That's why aviation does not move forward quickly. That's why automotive transport doesn't move quickly, very quickly forward either. Okay, he's rolling now, so it should be good if I give him the left turn, 170. Go a little bit lower. I think it's going to be fine. Air Canada 249, turn left heading 170.
Left heading 170, Air Canada 249.
I'm kind of putting these guys on a bit of a collision course, but I'm betting that this max is going to climb fast enough, or that I could turn him off course anyways at 3000.
And Center Air Canada 234 is 1,500, Vancouver 2.
Air Canada 234, thanks. Identified, climb 16,000. After 3000, turn right heading 300.
Alright, climb 16,000 after, say again for Canada 324.
Air Canada 234 at 3000, turn right heading 300.
Alright, 3,000, turn 300, Air Canada 234.
Air Canada 249, turn left heading 110 to intercept, cleared ILS 08 left.
Left heading 110 to intercept, cleared ILS 8 left, Air Canada 249.
All right, a little bit of interest here. So he's got to start turning now. Air Canada 234, turn right heading 330.
Right turn 330, Air Canada 234.
Okay, so they're passing the same altitude now, so altitude separation should be a non-issue momentarily. And I just need to get him high enough to turn him on course, 7,000 feet basically, to get him across that terrain. Air Canada 222 Vancouver, make sure you hold short of Mike 7. I've got one final arrival on runway 08 left, so it's going to be about 5 minutes before you can depart.
Yeah, we'll hold short Mike 7. Air Canada 266.
Thank you. And this guy can dare 1455. He's going to cap 3. Feel like I should know that one. Would you do much flying as a passenger in regions of the world where they did not have the same rigorous safety regimes? Oh, that's a fantastic question. Air Canada 234, turn right, direct Vidri on course.
Right turn, you say right turn or left turn?
Should be a right turn, direct Vidri on course for Air Canada 234.
Alright, sorry about that. Right turn direct to Victory, Air Canada 234.
Vancouver, Delta 331, flight level 238 for 320 over Erie.
Delta 331 Vancouver, hello, squawk code 0755.
0755.
And Vancouver Center, Charlie Lima Charlie is down at Cal 3 and clearly active.
Charlie Lima Charlie, roger. Your flight plan is closed. Learning service terminates. Have a good night. Air Canada 249, Vancouver winds 1607, clear to land, runway 08 left.
Clear to land, 8 left, Air Canada 249.
Delta 331 Vancouver, identified, flight level 248, climb flight level 340.
And Vancouver Center, Clearwater, or correction, Charlie Lima Charlie is clear of the active runway.
Charlie Lima Charlie, Vancouver, thanks. Your flight plan is closed. Learning service terminates. Have a good day.
Good day, thanks.
Air Canada 234, climb flight level 350. And Air Canada 234 was carrier only, just confirmed climb flight level 350. Delta 331, you're identified at 260, climb flight level 340. Nope, nobody wants to answer me anymore? Fine, screw all of you. Yeah. So would you fly in this as a passenger in regions of the world where they don't have the same rigorous safety routines? I, I, I wouldn't offhand, but then the question is, where do you draw the line too? What regimes are safe enough? How safe does it have to be safe enough? You know, is it if it's anybody that's blacklisted by the Western world? Would you fly on Russian? Would you fly on an Airbus that's being flown by Aeroflot right now that doesn't have access to Airbus parts anymore? They're just cannibalizing their own fleets to try and keep these airplanes running. Delta 854, Vancouver, you leave my airspace to the northwest. Your anchorage is not aligned. Surveillance service terminates. Switch to en route frequency.
Over to advisory. Thanks for the service today. Have a great day. Delta 854. See you.
See ya. Yeah. Yeah. Even the Russian airlines at this point scare me now, and it's not to say that any one particular thing will fail, but it's just it's when you don't have that oversight, when you don't have the knowledge that things are being done properly, you have to question, like, is it going to be safe? Is it what will happen if something further breaks? What stopgap measures have they already used to keep these airplanes flying? Where's their tape instead of the appropriate size panel, because they can't buy them anymore because nobody will sell to them? And who's this guy taxiing? What is with these guys, these people taxiing today? Not even talking to people. That runway's closed, buddy. You can't go that way. And besides which, you need to talk to the controller that's on the air. Like, I don't understand all these people who log on to VATSIM that don't see the controllers and talk to them. Even send me a message and say, hey, do you control X airport? Yes, I do. Please call me. So many people just don't even do that. I would gladly answer that question 10 times. What, do you control this airport? Versus one guy taxing out without talking to anybody, because it's just so exasperating. It really is. I'm going to log off 10 minutes early if these guys don't start paying attention here. It may be VFR, but it's a darn controlled airport. You're paying attention to what's going on. It's a question of risk. I'm all about the de-risking and stacking the cards against yourself. I fly in the risky areas is something I wouldn't count. It's my old age, 50 being old, according to my nieces and nephews. Yeah, well, that's just it's all about risk mitigation. That's the crux of it. Air Canada 249 Vancouver. Welcome to Vancouver. Right turn, Mike 5 if you can do it.
Okay, Mike 5, Air Canada 249.
Yeah, that is when you're a pilot, that is your entire career is monitoring and mitigating risk. Is he making Mike 3? Oh, he's making Mike 3. Air Canada 222 Vancouver. Contact me once you're airborne. The winds 240 at 6, clear for takeoff, runway 26 right.
All right, we'll contact you airborne, clear for takeoff 26 right, Air Canada 222.
Air Canada 249, welcome to Vancouver. Where are you parking today?
You could choose Air Canada 249.
Air Canada 249. Okay, let's see here. Inbound from Edmonton. All right, turn right on Mike, taxi Juliet, and let's do gate 43.
Okay, Mike, Juliet, and to gate 43, Air Canada 249. Thank you.
And Air Canada 249, actually, change of plans. Actually, go ahead onto Sierra. Cross Mike onto Sierra, and then through the ramp to Juliet to get to 43.
Okay, Mike Sierra, yeah. Mike Sierra, then Juliet, then gate 43, Air Canada 249.
Yeah, you're going to have a 172 that's heading down Mike in a second. It's just about ready to rotate at the speed he's taxiing.
Right.
Yeah, this is just about a rotation speed there. It's... And Air Canada 222, takeoff clearance canceled. Hold, just line up and wait at 26 right.
Line up and wait 26 right, Air Canada 222.
And Air Canada 222, okay. Looks like the 172, he overshot Mike, but he's turning back towards it now. So, yeah, contact me airborne, the wind's 246, you're clear, takeoff 26 right again.
Clear for takeoff 26 right, Air Canada 222.
And Air Canada 249, oh, you missed it there. Turn right now on Tango, right turn on Tango, or you're going to miss the whole apron there.
249, I reinstalled my whole sun, so things are not looking too good right now. Thank you for the ATC. I'll catch you next time.
All right, sorry about that, Air Canada 249. Have yourself a good day.
You as well.
It's a good thing I'm watching what's going on the ground here. Yeah, well, Hayden, thank you very much for the cheers, and thank you for the description, and thank you for just the chat, because that's the only thing that kept me here for the last hour. I was ready to bail about an hour ago, and the topics definitely kept me going. But yeah, this is what I do as this is my career, is risk management. Is what are the risks, and what can I do to mitigate them? How can I make this flight safer? Because there is an inherent risk of taking a machine 6 miles above the earth, flying through the air at 400 miles an hour. So
Center
what can I do
Canada
to make that?
222 through 9.5.
And Air Canada 222, I'm not seeing you on radar for some reason. Just make sure the transponder's on. That might be it. Because he's airborne, but there you go, Air Canada 222. Thanks. I've got you identified through 2200. Climb at 16,000 at 3000. Turn left heading 170.
16,000, 3,000, 170, Air Canada 222.
It's a long takeoff clearance. Right turn not approved, not above 2,000. Report clear in the zone west. Caution wake turbulence in the departed A320. Winds 250 at 7. Clear for takeoff 26 right. And then I ended up saying 28 right. That was a long takeoff clearance. Oh, mercy. Okay. Air Canada 222. Continue the left turn. Direct Al Nod on course.
Continue left to Elnod, Air Canada 222.
But I am going to bail in about 4 minutes here because, yeah, I've got to get up really early for work or really late, depending on how you look at it. So I'm going to be out of here. And Air Canada 234, it's still coming in as carrier only. I don't know if that was intentional transmission, but I'm just getting a carrier on it. Muted your mic or something. Wouldn't be the first person to do that. Yeah.
Vancouver Centre, Air Canada 234, ready to check.
Air Canada 234, I got you 5x5 now, and you confirm you are climbing to 350.
Say firm 350. Request 20 mile north track deviation for weather.
Air Canada 234, deviations left of course are approved. When able, direct ROMRA and advise. It's that time of year again. Thunderstorm avoidance. Do.
Air Canada 234, sorry you were broken there. Say again.
Air Canada 234, deviations left of course are approved. When able, direct ROMRA and advise.
Alright, deviation approved, Air Canada 234, we'll advise when direct to ROMRA.
Is it ROMRA or RORMA? I can't remember. It's ROMRA. Not that it matters that much. As long as we all understand what we're doing, that's the important thing. We're all on the same page here. Air Canada 222 Vancouver, climb flight level 350. At least this guy eventually called me. The medevac guy's gone again. He got a stern talking to from the
Air Canada 222, 350.
Do you watch any other IRL pilot streams?
Vancouver, Medevac 1 on the ground at Williams Lake, VFR to Kelowna.
All right, Medevac 1 Vancouver. Let's see here. Stand by. Let me just find your flight plan.
No problem, it's VFR.
Okay, Medevac 1. Williams Lake is uncontrolled then, so I can pull up the weather if you like, but the departure is at your discretion.
We'll pick up the weather and departure at our discretion. Do you want us to contact you once we're airborne? Medevac 1.
Medevac 1, I'm actually just going to be logging off in a couple minutes here, so you can remain on Unicom. For VFR in that area, you wouldn't need to contact me until you get to within about 10 miles or so of Kelowna.
Alright, we'll use Unicom and then we'll switch to Kelowna. Medevac 1, thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. There he is, Medevac 1, and I totally forgot. Do I watch any other IRL pilot streams content? The only guy that I find I really enjoy watching, and I do tend to watch him a lot, is I do watch Nomad Aviator. He's not a pilot IRL, he's a controller IRL, which is actually kind of interesting to me because then we can kind of converse on opposite sides. I haven't found any other pilots that I really enjoy watching. And it's not that I don't enjoy watching other, I just haven't found, and I don't spend a lot of time looking. I don't know why I found Nomad's or content. I started following him, and I just one or two streams in, and I find he's a great conversationalist, and he has a lot of fun with the hobby. He's happy to talk about he's happy to nerd out about work, but he also has a lot of just fun with the hobby itself, and it's kind of fun to watch him. So it's not for lack of trying, I guess, or maybe it is for lack of trying. It's not for lack of not liking anybody else's stream. I haven't found anybody else that really is compelling, but I also just haven't looked that hard. I don't spend that much time watching Twitch, to be honest. It's funny because I do spend a lot of time streaming on it, but I don't want to get caught up in it too much. I spend so much time streaming on it. That's the problem. Like I spend so much time already streaming on it. I don't want to spend even more time watching a whole lot of streams. So I do try to kind of check it out. Nomad's one of the few people that I really I check him out a lot. So you know what, I could do this, I think. What? Oh, I'm trying to give him a shout out. It's not working. I don't know why. Dang it. Okay. Anyways, he's reporting. All right. Yeah. I spend so much time online sometimes. I need to get away from this more. So I try not to get too far delved into social media. I really don't. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Instagram. I don't do Facebook. I don't do any of those things. I don't do TikTok. Twitch is I do sometimes, and only with people I like. If I try to. Yeah, for some reason it's not. It's telling me that his channel name's invalid. And I don't know why. I thought I knew it, but maybe I don't. Anyways, yeah, and YouTube is about the only other real social media per se that I spend much time on. Other than that, I really don't spend much time on social media. I'm trying to spend less time with my phone. That's one of the biggest things. I've come to this kind of realization slowly that I'm starting to despise my own phone. And it's not that I despise my phone, it's that I despise the amount of time I spend staring at it. So I'm trying to break those habits more and more. Yeah. It's not that the command's not working, it's that it's not recognizing his channel name for some reason. I don't know why. Unless I'm spelling it wrong. Yeah, I don't. Anyways, he's one of the few people that I do follow. So, anyways, I'm gonna pull the plug now because it is now, yeah, it's gotten late enough, and I just realized that my overlay down at the bottom was never running its time. This whole time I was streaming, and my overlay, the time on the overlay was not working. The center at least is correct, which was funny last time. Last time was the opposite situation. I got the time on there, but I didn't get I never updated my call sign. Anyways, yeah, less time on screens. I'm not saying never spend any time, but just more time with people in the real world and less time on screens. And isn't that funny for a streamer to say that? But I think we could all stand to spend less time on screens in our lives. I know I could. So with that in mind, that seems like the perfect segue to get out of here. Air Canada 222 Vancouver, going to be shutting down now, so you can switch down to frequency. Your surveillance service terminates. Have yourself a great rest of the day. We'll see you next time.
122, have a good day.
And Air Canada 234, same for you. Going to be logging off now. Switch to the honorary frequency. Surveillance service terminates. Have a good day.
All right, over to you, Confer Air Canada 234, and have a good day. Thanks.
See ya. And Delta 331 Vancouver, going to be logging off. Switch to the on-route frequency. Surveillance service terminates, and have yourself a great night.
See you at Delta 331.
If anybody else is on Vancouver Centre frequency, Vancouver Centre is now closed. Switch to the en route frequency and have a great day. All right, I am out. I've got to go to bed and get ready for work. So have yourself a great night. Thank you so much, Hayden, for giving me some good stuff to talk about, because I do enjoy chatting. Sometimes I just need to kind of find the right topic, and you found some excellent ones there. So not always at the front of my mind, but they were great topics. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, stay tuned. I don't know if we're going to have time for flight stream this week, because I've only got really one day off this week, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, regardless, enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we'll see you guys all out there on in the VATSIM skies hopefully real soon. Take care.